Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support in helping our channel grow. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, so please support us by subscribing and helping us reach this milestone. Now let's start the story. Present, bin, on the road, bus attack. Run, run, run. Feet don't fail me now. The shouts and swearing in Spanglish continue, as do the reports and rounds from the AKs they are firing. If I stop, I die. Most people don't realize how hard it is to hit a moving target with a rifle shot. Oh, it's not hard if the target runs right towards you or directly away from you. It's not even that hard if the target moves at a consistent speed and direction across your field of fire, none of which I am doing. Fully auto AK fire still dances around my feet. Dumb shits. They think the more lead they throw at me, the more likely it is they will hit me. I do know if it was me doing the shooting, I would have already been dead. I had practiced hitting moving targets, mostly squirrels, from the time I was a small boy. Most of it was just guesswork and luck. Lead the squirrel a certain amount, then squeeze the trigger and follow through. Just like shooting a shotgun. Then I joined the Corps and they refined my guesstimations, and now I was pretty damn good at hitting a moving target. The rounds are getting closer. Time to change speed and direction. Good, that throws them off and the swearing increases. I finally hear, "Move your butts and go get him." Good. My plan is finally working. Draw them away from the death trap bus, the passengers, and especially Stacy. I feel like shit leaving her and the others on the bus, but at least I sent Manuel to hell first. I will not abandon her. This is not a retreat. Marines never retreat. It's a strategic relocation. Finally it happens. There's a lull in their firing. I pull up my M4 and touch off 5 rounds. Unlike them, my shots are aimed. Shit. Only 4 of them connect. As hard as it is to hit a moving target, it's even harder to hit a moving target when you're moving too. I should have hit that 5th scumsucker, but he was lucky today. I stepped on a rock and almost went down, so my shot missed. If they were pissed at me before for running from the death trap bus, they were really pissed now since I'd taken out 4 of their hombres. The firing increases along with the yelling as I switch directions, change speed again, and hear, "Everyone after him." Good. Killing a few of the scumsuckers got their full attention. Now I need to do my best to keep it. I fire a couple more, well-placed shots, and 2 more fall. The rounds and the hombres are getting closer to me. Present, Stacy. On the road, bus attack. My head. What happened? I wake up and it sounds like I'm in the middle of a war. I open my eyes, it's just getting dark, and I yell, "Ben." Someone whispers loudly back, "Stop making noise." I whisper, "What's going on?" The voice replies, "The Mexican Liberation Army stopped the bus. They would have already taken all of us hostage, but some crazy SOB from the bus is fighting their whole damn army, and they're busy trying to catch him and kill him." Now that I'm fully awake, I notice a very dead Manuel in the middle of the aisle. I whisper, "What happened to him?" The voice laughs softly and whispers, "The same crazy scumsucker beat the shit out of him with a skateboard. I've never seen anything like it. That crazy scumsucker is Ben, and he's trying to save us." I move around and realize something isn't right in my underwear. It's not that time for me, so what's going on? I slip my hand down into my pants, and it's nasty. Then I find a piece of paper, pull it out, and read, "Stacy, I will be back for you. Until then, go with the pretend ant flow. If that doesn't work, tell them you have gonorrhea. If that fails, shit your pants." Well, the note scared me, and now I understand if Ben can't stop them, then they will probably assault all the women on the bus. I rush around, find more ketchup, and squirt it onto the panty liner Ben put in my underwear. Then I go to my pack, look for my pistol, but find it's gone. There must be something I can do. I start to think, what would Ben do? Present, Ben, on the road, bus attack. I feel the burning sensation and groan. Now that hurts like a son of a bitch. Getting shot always does. Sooner or later, when you kick a hornet's nest, you're going to get stung. I was lucky it took them this long to finally hit me. The wound isn't life-threatening right now, but I am losing blood, so this calls for a change in strategy. I head towards the ridge above me and cover, but not before taking out 2 more hombres. I reach the ridge, hit the dirt, and spin around. The wound can wait for a bit. Right now I need to chase these scumsuckers back down the hill. Now that I'm not moving, my shots are more precise, but I know better than using shoot to kill. This time it's more effective to wound these hombres, so they are all getting gut shot. They all scramble for cover, and we have a real Mexican standoff. They try to move or stand up, and I shoot the scumsuckers. I try to move, and they pepper the dirt close to me. I take a moment, rip open my pants leg, start to dress my wound and staunch the bleeding. It reminds me of another time I was wounded. Flashback, Ben. Last day of week 4 of Spook School. Is there one defining moment which changes a person's life? Or is our life made up of many smaller moments which add up to create the change? I mulled this in my mind as I headed back to the spook school. Even after all I'd been through in my life, the last 2 days changed me. I would never be the same. Flashback, Jack, last day of week 4 of spook school. I checked my watch again, and there was still no Ben. Shit. If we got orders, I would have to leave his butt here or wherever the hell he was. Then I smiled and let my mind wander. I remembered Mira. She looked hot as hell as the lone rangerette. I and all the men except Ben couldn't keep our eyes off those long, sexy legs of hers. I had hoped for an even better performance the next night, but the spook school got in the way of Myra's costume party. Flashback, Mira, night 5, week 1 of spook school. I sat on my empty bed, in my empty room, unclothed, and glanced at my lone rangerette costume hanging in the closet. I was most pleased with the effect it had on all the men of the school, but once again my buffoonic, belligerent boyfriend seemed impervious to my influences. I did not conceive it possible, but earlier tonight he was even more irascible and frustrating than previously. I had hoped that night to at least adulterate his food with a new tracking device, but he did not eat supper with us or even partake of a drink. I had dreamed I might persuade him to abide with me tonight, but, when Lance Corporal Blaine excused himself for the restroom, he rudely never returned. Once again he was missing and I was missing him. Tonight I did not even call my sister. I was too morose and cried myself to a troubled sleep. Flashback, Mira, day 6, week 1 of spook school. When I awakened today, I had renewed resolve and a new plan, even if my face resembled Orson Welles due to last night's tears. I knew Lance Corporal Blaine could not resist my costume for tonight, since no man could be that strong. I would lasso him, and tonight he would be mine. However, all hopes were dashed when I read the revised event calendar for today. We had the morning off, and were to report to the shooting range this afternoon to prepare for a night live fire mission tonight. Unfortunately, my perfect costume must wait for tomorrow night. Flashback, Charlie, day 6, her apartment. The school commandant was easily manipulated. His wife, while young, was quite prudish and didn't know the finer points of seduction. Her loss was my gain, and the commandant and I came to an oral agreement to change the schedule. Report time for the class today was 1300, which gave me more than enough time to bed the recalcitrant Ben this morning. I took my time as I fully prepared myself. No need to rush as I had all morning. I walked out of my room, to the guest bedroom, knocked on the door, and there wasn't an answer. I opened the door and the scumbsucker. He did it to me again. My spare bedroom was totally empty. Ben and all his gear were gone, except for a box in the middle of the bed. It was the size of a flower box, so I walked over, opened it, and the scumbsucker, he's going to pay for this. Flashback, Ben, day 6, bivouac. I was sick and tired of everyone. Well, that's not quite true. I was sick and tired of Charlie, Mira, Jack, and especially Major M. They all thought they owned me, or at least wanted a piece of me. I said screw this shit, and went to bivouac with my band of brothers Tom and Howard. I sat, watched the sunrise, eating one of the old man's breakfast MREs, and said, thanks guys, now this is the life. Tom belched and said, yeah, the old man was pissed as hell when he found someone had snatched all his breakfast MREs, but his loss is our gain. Howard laughed. Shit, Ben, you're the only Marine I know that would think it's better to sleep in a tent than with that SYT. Tom added, or Charlie. I looked at the guys, my brothers, and tried to explain, guys, those two both have agendas for my life which aren't in my best interest. Myra's in love with me, so she wants to marry me and have babies, while Charlie just wants to use me as her boy toy. Tom asked with doubt, and neither of those are on your agenda? I thought about my agenda and said, not even close. By the way, while you two are keeping an eye on us today, you should know there's another person watching us. Mira tried to shoot her yesterday, so make sure she doesn't get hurt. The guys gave me a funny look, but finally Tom laughed and questioned, her? She? Shit. Don't tell me you have another woman chasing you. Since you aren't interested in Mira or Charlie, do you want us to catch this one for you? Howard noticed the look on my face and saved my butt. Tom, cut Ben some slack on this one. Don't worry, we'll make sure she's safe. I was relieved and said, well, time to head over to this piece of shit school for the day. Thanks, guys. We bumped fists and said, Semper Fi until we die. I ran off and Howard promised, we've got your back. Flashback, Mira, day 6, week 1 of spook school. I opened the door to my room, and there was a flower box waiting for me in the hallway. Finally, my beautiful boyfriend had come to his senses and was apologizing to me. I quickly moved the box into my room, prepared to open it, but something did not seem right. I had received flowers before, and the box they came in had lower mass than this box. I carefully removed the card, glanced at it, and jumped away from the box. This was not a gift from my boyfriend. This was a trap. I quickly threw a blanket over the box and exited my room. Flashback. Charlie, day 6, her apartment. I wiped the blood out of my eyes and looked in horror at the bed. There was blood everywhere. Thank God it wasn't mine, but it could have been. Some scumsucker, probably Ben, filled the flower box with charges and baggies filled with blood. I foolishly opened it and now. The bed looked worse than the horsehead scene from The Godfather. Then I glanced at the room and it also was covered in blood. Worse than the prom scene from Carrie. I couldn't believe Ben did this to me. The scumsucker. I'm going to kill him. The spare bedroom and one of my best teddies were totally destroyed. I fingered the card on the front of the box, finally looked at it and read, "Mess with the best I like the rest. Leave my Ben alone. Biatch." For a second, I worried that Mira figured out who I was and what I'd done. If that was the case, then I'd have to leave before she killed me. But Mira doesn't use words like biatch, so it couldn't be her. I sure as hell didn't know which one of the students did this to me, but when I finally find her, and I will find her, she's going to learn what it's like to screw with me. Flashback. Yints, day 6. I fought back a giggle as I stood in the hallway and heard the gift I left for the broken-down old biatch bin had been staying with Detonate. A neat little trick, with a major modification I learned from some kind soul last night. Score. Yints 2. Biatch trying to assault my bin nothing. I was so glad when I watched my bin take all his gear out of her room late last night, but she still needed to be taught a lesson for trying to assault my bin. Mess with the best, die like the rest. He had 2 Marines help him, and they were so good that I lost track of where the heck they took my bin. It didn't matter, just as long as it wasn't here with the broken-down old biatch, or especially there with the younger biatch. Now, to see if I can find my bin. The 2 biatchs will be busy cleaning up their messes, so I might even be able to meet him before I have to get back to my school. Flashback. Bin, day 6, spook school. Son of a bitch. I got to the stupid spook school and the schedule had been changed. There's nothing going on until 1300, and then we have a live fire exercise tonight. If there's one thing this piece of shit school could and possibly would screw up, it's a night live fire exercise. Even when run by the best, they are dangerous and people get killed. I decided to head to the mess hall for a cup of coffee. I noticed Kai sitting by himself, so I grabbed a cup and sat across from him. He smiled and said, "Greetings, Ben-san." I nodded my head, "Konnichiwa, Kai-san. It sucks that they changed the schedule." He affirmed, "Yes, it is most unfortunate they did not plan anything for the morning." That gave me an idea, so I asked, "Well, since there's nothing until 1300, do you want to go spar?" His grin came back and he replied, "That would be most enjoyable, Ben-san." We walked out to the practice field. On the way he asked, "Excuse me, Ben-san, I hear you are no longer abiding with Sergeant Reynolds. Where do you retire now?" I decided it wouldn't hurt him, and of course Mira, to know, so I replied, "Kai-san, I became tired of all the drama and distraction from Mira, so I am staying in a tent with 2 of my friends." He slipped and grinned, so I knew this tidbit would be a feather in his cap. I asked, "Kai-san, are you any good with weapons?" He nodded, "Yes, Ben-san, I am very good with weapons. Miss Sedankina says you are not very adept with them." I smiled, "Yes, she says I get distracted by the weapon and lose focus." He nodded. "If Miss Sedankina says that, then she would be correct, and we will work on that with you. Please pick up a practice katana." We were well into practice when Mira excitedly ran up and yelled, "Boyfriend, someone is trying to kill me." She distracted me, so I stopped, but Kai didn't and nailed me a good one. I wasn't so sure it wasn't on purpose. He grinned at me and apologized, "1,000 pardons, Ben-san." I glared at him and answered, "Kai-san, we will deal with this later." I was concerned that Maria might have escalated things and had opened fire again on Mira, so I questioned, "Mira, what the hell are you talking about?" Mira excitedly replied, "I opened the door to my room and found a flower box. At first I assumed you sent it, so I brought it into my room. However, I noticed it had more mass than a normal flower box would. So I read the card, and while I was incredibly disappointed, I knew it wasn't from you." "What the hell was going on?" I questioned. "So what did the card say?" She handed it to me and said, "Read it yourself." I read, "Mess with the best I like the rest. Leave my bin alone. Biatch." Mira questioned, "Lance Corporal Blaine, my boyfriend. Is there something about someone you are not telling me?" It was not a good time for Myra's green-eyed monster to surface. I dismissed her and said, "Mira, not now. We will talk about this later. We need to get back to your room and see what the hell is going on." It was a good thing Mira brought the card. Otherwise, I would have worried it was a trap to get me back to her room. But the card certainly wasn't in Myra's or Charlie's handwriting. And when Mira didn't complain about Kai tagging along, I knew this was serious. The three of us headed towards her room at a fast run. As we got to her room, I stopped everyone and said, "You two wait while I open the door." I slowly opened the door and couldn't believe what I saw. Mira took one look and let out an audible gasp. The room looked like the wood chipper scene from Fargo. Blood covered almost everything. Mira cried. "I do not understand what happened. I left the box on my bed, covered with a blanket." "Oh, my poor room is totally destroyed again." That statement, my prank last night in Myra's room, and this current prank made me feel sorry for her. I announced, "Well, it looks like we need to clean things up." Flashback, Jack, Day 6 Spook School. Son of a bitch. I was damned pissed off. I went to Myra's room to tell her about the change in schedule. She wasn't there, so I went inside to check on her, but she was gone. I saw a bump under her blanket, pulled it back and saw it was a box of flowers. Being the curious sort, I opened the box and all hell broke loose. The flower box blew up in my face and covered me in Myra's room in blood. Thank God I wasn't wearing my combat gear, or it would have been ruined. I knew better than to wait around for Mira to show up, otherwise the rest of her room would be covered in my blood. She had no sense of humor, and I knew somehow I would be blamed for this. So I carefully wiped the blood off my clothes and my shoes so it wouldn't drip and beat feet back to my room. I took off my clothes in the bathtub to keep from getting blood everywhere and bagged them up for the trash. Damn, I'm going to miss that Hawaiian shirt. It was one of my favorites. I turned on the shower, rinsed the blood off me, and was happy as hell I'd finally put one over on Mira. Flashback, Ben, Day 6 Spook School. We were 30 minutes into cleaning up Myra's room and hadn't even made a dent in it. Mira sat on her bunk and started to cry. Shit. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's a crying woman. I walked over, sat beside her, put my arm around her and said, "Mira, I can understand why you are crying. Unfortunately, I don't think we will be able to clean this room." The tears kept falling and she said, "Lance Corporal Blaine, then where will I go? Perhaps I can sleep where you abide?" I shook my head and answered, "Mira, I am sleeping in a tent with Tom and Howard. It's no place for a woman. You could stay with Jack." She gave me a dirty look and answered, "I would rather sleep in the outside house for dog than with stinky Sergeant Reynolds." Kai offered, "I do not have a roommate. Ms. Sedankina is welcome to stay with me." Mira countered, "Kai could stay in the tent with your friends, and we could share his room together." I shook my head and said, "Mira, I really need to concentrate on this school, and I can't do that when I'm around you 24 hours a day. You are the most distracting woman I've ever met." She smiled at me and said, Flashback, Mira, Day 6 Spook School. So I did have an effect on my boyfriend. I had worried he didn't love me, but now I know that is not true. I answered, "Sweetie, I didn't think you noticed." He laughed, which made my feelings better, and answered, "Mira, I think even a dead man would notice you." I knew that was some compliment which I could not fathom, so I smiled and requested, "If you kissed me I would stop crying and feel better." He laughed, stood up and said, "Mira, we don't have time for that shit. We need to move all your gear into Kai's room." I stood up, attacked him, and got my kiss. After he fought and pulled away from me, I stated, "See my boyfriend, that was not painful and did not take very long at all. Next time perhaps you will kiss me first. Now you are correct, we need to relocate my room. On the way perhaps you will tell me who your mystery girlfriend is that tried to kill me. I think I would like to meet her. Would it perhaps be someone named Maria, by which name you accidentally referred to me?" Flashback, Ben, Day 6 Spook School. Shit. I had hoped Mira forgot about me accidentally calling her Maria, since I had almost forgotten about it. I should have known better. Women never forget even trivial things, and that mistake was certainly not trivial. I quickly lied, "Mira, I don't know what the hell or who the hell you're talking about." She smiled, like a mongoose smiles at a cobra right before causing the cobra's death, and said, "Lance Corporal Blaine, do not try to pull sheep fur over my ocular units." I distinctly remember her name. "Do you need some love taps from my katana to jar your failing memory?" That was a big mistake. I looked angrily at Mira and said, "Mira, that was the final straw. Do you want to beat me to death with that damn practice katana of yours? Then I'm your huckleberry. Screw this shit. I'm leaving, and we'll be waiting for you on the practice field." Mira started complaining as I left Kai's room, leaving Mira, her many complaints, and her threats behind me. I'm sick and tired of her manipulations and threats, and that's just what they are, threats. If she loves me, she certainly won't beat me, at least not to death. Flashback, Mira, Day 6 Spook School. My boyfriend very angrily left the room. I looked at Kai in amazement, and he offered, "Ms. Sedankina, Lance Corporal Blaine is doing what is known as calling your buffalo. It is famous in those who play poker. Your threats of physical violence to Lance Corporal Blaine have lost their effectiveness because he knows you will not permanently injure him, and he has no more fear of your minor beatings. This was new information for me, and I was confused, so I queried, Kai, what should I do? Kai smiled and answered, Ms. Sedankina, you are a formidable warrior, but you forget for men like Lance Corporal Blaine you have other weapons which are more effective than your martial arts skills. Remember how he acted when you cried in your room, or when your ankle was injured. You will be more effective if you acquire a more subservient role. Aha, I understood. Thank you, Kai, for enlightening me. Please finish moving my gear. I ran after my boyfriend with a new idea of how to beat him, which did not involve my practice katana. I saw him standing motionless in the middle of the practice field. I ran up to him, stopped short, smiled at him and said, Lance Corporal Blaine, I wish to apologize to you for my silly threats, and I thank you for calling my buffalo. He chuckled and said, Mira, I think you mean calling your bluff. So you aren't going to beat me with your practice katana? I made a note of Kai's mistake and answered, No, sir. I will not beat you with my practice katana. In fact, I am very sorry for every time in the past I have applied it to your body, and I feel the need to offer you the chance to punish me. I knelt in front of him, lowered my head in supplication and offered, I am yours, punish me as you wish. I shuddered when I felt his hands on my shoulders. He commanded, Mira, get up and never kneel in front of me again. I stood, gave him a mischievous smile and said, But my boyfriend, shouldn't I be on my knees in front of you to perform certain enjoyable acts? I watched as his face crimsoned and he said, Mira, I don't know what you're talking about. I was right. This strategy worked much better. I twisted and flirted, my boyfriend. Your mouth may say you do not know, but your face tells a story which is not the same. Perhaps you would like a demonstration? I knelt again in front of him. Flashback, Jack, Day 6 Spook School. Well, this was interesting. As I walked out to the practice field, I saw Mira kneel in front of Ben, and he jumped back so fast he almost fell over. What are those two doing? I walked up and teased. Am I disturbing something? Ben blushed. Mira giggled and said, Good morning, Sergeant Reynolds. I was just offering to perform linguistic lollipop skills on my boyfriend. It seems his other girlfriends were selfish little girls and never introduced him to such linguistic delights. Unfortunately, he is recalcitrant because I think he is worried I will injure him. Perhaps you, being a more experienced male, might alleviate his fears. Might I first demonstrate on you to assuage my boyfriend's fears? My jaw must have hit the ground. I couldn't find words but instead only muttered, Flashback, Ben, Day 6 Spook School. I think. No, I'm certain I liked Mira better when she was beating the shit out of me, not offering to beat me off. I had been beaten so much my whole life that I was ready for physical violence. However, I wasn't even remotely ready for the flirty Mira again because she was worse than ever. What the hell changed her? And this time she wasn't even being coy about it. She was blatant and announced she wanted to give me a Hummer right in front of Jack. When I acted stupid, she even offered to. Shit. I can't even think about it. She offered to do Jack so I wouldn't be scared. She can't be serious. I watched as Mira. Well, I can't really say she walked. It looked more like she stalked towards Jack. I looked at him and wondered if I was as beet red as he was, because for once he looked like the Indian. Shit. Mira grabbed Jack and started to give him a hell of a kiss. Jack struggled at first, then sort of got into it, and his hands traveled down to Mira's, but I was just getting ready to empty my drinking bladder of cold water on them and cool them down, when Kai ran up and said, Excuse me, Ms. Sedankina, but it is time for us to report to the firing range. Mira pulled away, and at first I thought she was going to beat the shit out of Kai. Instead, she smiled at me and taunted, See, Lance Corporal Blaine, now that is how you were supposed to share a kiss with me. Just remember, when I want a kiss, you will either give me a kiss or I will find someone else to kiss me. I had to think of something fast, so I said, Well, Mira, if that's the way you would think I would want my girlfriend. I clamped my mouth closed, but it was too late. Shit. Have you ever wished you could turn back the clock and take back the words you just said? Well, this was one of those times. Mira stalked over, grabbed my arm and said, It is about time you acknowledge me as your girlfriend. Just remember I am a young woman and I have needs. If you cannot fill those needs, then you will force me to turn to Sergeant Reynolds. Well, two can play this game. I snatched my arm away and said, Whatever floats your boat, Mira. Don't complain to me when you get a case of crabs. Mira gave me a puzzled look and said, Boyfriend, I do not have a boat, so we cannot go fishing for crabs. Jack loudly complained. Hey, you little son of a bitch. I know I'm cleaner than you are because I haven't had sex with anyone since we've gotten here. Unlike what you and Charlie have been doing. Shit, the old scumsucker sold me out. I watched as the anger rose to Myra's face, and as she started to pull her practiced katana. I had two choices. I could fight Mira, or I could let her beat me. I decided on the latter and waited as she started to slice the air with the katana. I announced, "If you love me, you won't hit me with that until after you hear my explanation." The practice katana stopped in mid-arc, almost touched my helmet, and Mira responded, "Okay, boyfriend, this explanation must be exemplary, otherwise I will beat you." I looked her in the eyes and said, "Mira, she got me drunk, sedated me, and took advantage of me. It wasn't sex or love. It was more like assault." I watched as Mira's eyes glazed over, and she said, "That surly, slimy female dog. Do not worry, my boyfriend. I will defend your honor." I asked, "Mira, I would just as soon let this drop because thinking about it is uncomfortable." Flashback, Jack, Day 6, Spook School. I sure as hell didn't want to hang around here. If Mira wasn't trying to beat me to death, she was trying to screw me. And if the latter happened in front of Ben, I wasn't so sure that he wouldn't beat me to death. For some reason, he didn't want to nail Mira, but he sure as hell didn't want anyone else nailing Mira. I ordered, "We need to cut out all this bullshit and get to the firing range. You know how much trouble we will be in if we are late." I headed off towards the firing range at a trot, glanced over my shoulder, and was glad to see the other three following me. I heard Ben order, "Mira, stay back here while I talk with Jack." She started whining and he said, "Mira, cut it out and stop acting like a little girl." Ben ran up beside me, looked over at me and said, "Well, that was a screwed up mess. Thanks for telling Mira about Charlie and me." I glanced at him and replied, "Sorry about that, it just sort of slipped out." He looked at me, his anger softened, and he replied, "Yeah, I can see you're not lying." Then he laughed, "Damn, I sure don't know what the hell got into Mira." I laughed and answered, "I think she figured out beating our butts wasn't getting her anywhere, so she switched back to the flirty Mira." Ben asked, "Jack, you really wouldn't have let her?" I interrupted, "Hell no. I'd be concerned she'd get pissed again at me and bite it off." Ben laughed, "Yeah, that was what I was concerned about too. So what are your feelings about tonight's exercise?" I shook my head and answered, "Personally, I think we're screwed. My goal tonight is to just keep from getting killed." He nodded his head and called, "Mira and Kai, please come up here." I was shocked at how fast Mira was right up between us. Her flirts didn't stop and she was jostling Ben, but he was ignoring her. I moved further away because I didn't want her to start on me again. Ben announced. Flashback, Ben, Day 6, Spook School. I suggested, "Listen, Mira and Kai. Jack and I have talked it over, and we both have serious concerns about tonight's exercise. We aren't convinced this school can pull off the exercise without someone getting killed or hurt, so I think we need to have a strategy for tonight." Mira replied, "Kai and I have been discussing the exact same issues." I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was, so I asked, "And did you two come up with any plans?" Mira smiled and answered, "We have decided for this exercise it would be better if we purposely did not win, or even try to win. I think the real winners here will be the ones who do not get injured. Plus Maria, your old girlfriend, is still attempting to kill me, and she might accidentally injure you." I almost laughed at the sing-song emphasis on Maria and girlfriend Mira used, but I didn't want to infuriate her anymore today. I questioned, "You aren't worried about her shooting you?" She grinned. "No, my boyfriend. We have a plan and we will catch her." She told me her plan, and I seriously worried for Maria because if Maria went after her tonight, she'd pay for it. I needed to contact Tom and Howard. Flashback, Jack, Night 6, Spook School. At the firing range, we listened to the school's bogus plans for tonight's exercise. Then the four of us put our heads together and finalized our plans. Ben took off under the guise of getting some body armor for Kai, but I could tell he had ulterior motives. Mira was flirty as hell when he was here. She became all business when he left and spent way too much time, even for a woman, on her phone. I tried to kibitz on her conversations, but one look from her told me to mind my own business. Ben was gone way too long, and the longer he was away, the more concerned Mira became. I about laughed my butt off when Ben finally showed back up. That would have been a huge mistake. Mira circled him like a female dog, checking out its mate to see if he'd been with another dog. I was shocked she didn't try to sniff his butt. Ben tolerated it, but I could tell he was getting perturbed. I remembered what Major M said and decided, even though it was dangerous, I needed to step in. I announced, "Okay, we need to have a quick meeting and then head over to the live fire area." The other three came over. Ben asked, "What's going on, Jack?" I wanted to say, "Hopefully not my funeral," but I answered, "We need to put all the distractions out of our minds and concentrate on the exercise tonight." The look in Ben's eyes told me he was appreciative, and he answered, "I agree with Jack. Now is not the time for personal feelings." I watched Mira intently and could tell she didn't like what Ben said, but she responded, "I comprehend both of you are referring to me, and while I do not like it, I will comply." However, I do demand some attention from my boyfriend after this exercise is completed. I kept my fingers crossed that Ben wouldn't say something stupid. He replied, Mira, we will discuss this after the exercise is over. Now let's take our position. Mira looked satisfied for now, but I could only imagine what she had in store for Ben later and decided I needed to make myself scarce as soon as this was over. We headed to the location we'd chosen. Flashback, Ben Night 6, Spook School. On my mission today to get Kai some body armor, I looked all over hell to try to find Maria but never did. Then I met with Tom and Howard, but they hadn't seen her. I wanted to warn her about Myra's trap. If Maria was captured by Mira, I knew one of them was going to die. It still shocked me as we took up our position that this school was attempting this exercise. It only reinforced my feelings that the commandant was an utter moron. We took our position, off to the far side of the practice area, and waited for the exercise to commence. This was the best and safest location we could take since our goal was to hunker down behind the wall in front of us and wait out the storm which was coming. Having watched the bozos practicing today, had for once killed any desire I had to join in the shooting. Kai looked at us and said, I will depart for my secret location. Yes, Kai was covering our backs, but he was really scouting for Maria. I had Tom covering his back and Howard covering Tom's back. I was pretty damn sure if Maria showed up, she would try to sneak in behind us, and I wanted Tom or Howard to grab her first. The horn sounded. The flares were fired to partially illuminate the exercise area, and all hell broke loose. Jack yelled, Shit, this sounds like the start of the Battle of Mogadishu. What a bunch of morons with automatic rifles, too much ammo and too few brains. We hunkered down lower and hoped to not be hit. I spun around, fired up the night vision scope on my rifle, and scanned the area behind us, looking for Maria. I sure as hell didn't see her, but I jumped like hell, went around and impacted the dirt in front of me. With all the other noise, I had no idea which direction it came from. I shouted, Sniper, move it. I jumped up, began to run, and felt the burning sensation. Shit, I'd been shot. I yelled, I've been hit. Dove into the bushes and Jack and Mira fell in beside me. Mira gave me a worried look and asked, My boyfriend, are you okay? I complained, Hell no, I'm not okay. Some scumsucker just shot me in the butt. Mira ordered, Let me see your derriere. She moved and several more rounds hit the dirt close to us. I countermanded, It's fine, just a flesh wound. We've got to find that sniper. Mira, you take the left flank. Jack, you take the right flank, and I'll move up the middle first and try to draw his fire. I jumped up and started running up the middle as rounds danced a deadly pattern around my feet. Thank God whoever the scumsucker was shooting at me wasn't very good. I dove into another bush and rolled like hell to a different location as rounds hit the ground where I had just been. Whoever it was, I was sure it wasn't Maria, and they sure as hell wanted me. It was still impossible to locate the scumsucker with all the noise from the exercise. I rolled some more, to another bush, jumped up and ran again. This time there were no rounds, but I still didn't trust the scumsucker, so I dove into another bush and waited. Flashback, Mira, Night 6, Spook School. I was tremendously troubled. Someone had defiled my boyfriend's delicious derriere, and I was not going to take this by sitting on my derriere. Lance Corporal Blaine bravely and heroically took off up the middle, and the sniper fired at him. I jumped up, headed up the left flank without the encumbrance of gunfire. The sniper seriously desired to terminate my boyfriend and ignored me? This cannot be his Maria. I felt a surge from my adrenal glands and doubled my speed while I scanned the area. Flashback, Jack, Night 6, Spook School. If this wasn't so serious, it would have been funny. Pain in the butt bin, getting shot in the butt. I almost laughed my butt off. I knew when he jumped up and started running like his butt was on fire, he wasn't seriously wounded, because if the piriformis or gluteus maximus muscles were damaged, no one could run like that. It made me feel better, but I was still cautious when I jumped up to secure the right flank. I guess I didn't need to be as careful, because no one fired at me. As I ran, I wondered who the hell been pissed off this time. Whoever it was, they sure wanted him dead. Flashback, Yints, Night 6. Daddy sure didn't raise me to be a fool, but Mom was a different story. After my little pranks today, I knew the old biatch, and especially the young biatch, would be out for blood, and I don't mean the blood which covered them in their rooms. They messed with the best and got spanked like the rest. I had mad shooting skills, so I didn't need to be as close as Ben's two Marine friends thought I needed to be. So I watched them all day as they watched my Ben. I was even tempted a couple times to fire close to them to scare them, but it was more fun reconning the recons. However, I almost shot the young biatch earlier today for being such a terrible flirt with my Ben. I came even closer when she was going to beat him with her practice katana, but my beautiful Ben said something to her and she stopped. Right before she struck him and right before I pulled the trigger. I was relieved because I'd never shot anyone. I figured out this stupid school was going to have a night fire exercise and was so excited I about peed my panties. I'd always heard about night fire exercises, but this would be my first chance to see one in person. I took a position early on a high hill overlooking the night fire exercise area, snuggled down into a leafy bush, and covered myself with leaves and branches, nature's ghillie suit, and took a little nap. Well, the little nap turned out to be a longer nap than I planned, and the sound of gunfire from the exercise area woke me. I was glad they had flares over the area because I could sort of see what was going on, but I had no idea where the heck my bin was. I swiped a night vision monocular from Daddy and had rigged it up to the front of my rifle. It sort of worked through my scope, but not as well as the real ones the Marines had. I flipped it on and scanned the area close to the exercise area. I saw Ben's 2 Marines keeping an eye on him and saw one other dude I didn't recognize. I noticed with my left eye some movement in the exercise area. I watched as 3 people jumped up and ran from the area. That must be my Ben, his stinky old sergeant, and the nasty, flirty young biatch. They dove into the bushes and I realized someone must be shooting at them. I secretly hoped they would take care of the young biatch for me. One of them jumped up in the middle and took off. That had to be my Ben, because he's so brave. Then the smaller one took off up the left side and the bigger one took off up the right side. I quickly scanned the hills and finally I saw a very slight flash. I marked the location in my mind. I looked back and I couldn't see my bin, but I did see the other 2 going up the sides. I watched the suspicious area again and saw a couple more flashes. No one's going to shoot my bin. So I pulled up my rifle and started firing at the area where the flashes were. Flashback, Ben Night 6, Spook School. I jumped up and ran. This time there were no shots fired at me, but I still dove into a bush right as the horn sounded announcing the end of the exercise. Thank God. I was never so happy to hear a horn in my life. The firing slowed and then stopped except for shit, there was a crapload of firing going on in the hills above the exercise area. It sounded like a mini-war. I heard the quick bursts of an AK-74 and the slower booms of a 7.62 sniper rifle. It couldn't be. That 7.62 had to be Maria because that's the same caliber as the case I found. Then all hell broke loose to my left. Shit, Mira opened fire on one of the 2. I hope to God it's not Maria. That must have fired up Kai, Tom, and Howard because they started firing and added to this huge cluster shit. The hills are alive with the sound of gunfire. The range officer must have heard all the firing because he blew the horn again, and I then couldn't hear anything. The echo of the horn faded away, and everything was quiet. I worried about Maria as I reached into my pocket, grabbed my phone, and made a call. We needed some serious help because we had seriously breached the protocol of this exercise, and there was going to be hell to pay. Flashback, Major M, Night 6. My phone rang and woke me from a great dream. It was Lance Corporal Blaine. Even though it was obvious the Lance Corporal was under some stress, he gave me an outstanding sitrep. The Spook School held an ill-planned and ill-advised night fire exercise, and during the exercise someone had tried to take out my Marines. They had retaliated, which seriously broke the protocol of the exercise, and he requested my support. I was impressed that Lance Corporal Blaine had the wherewithal to know when to call me and not try to bullshit his way out of this and totally screw it up. Yeah, the Commandant and Mr. Bozo Smith would try to have my Marines' heads over this one. And if the old man found out about this, well, he had a bad habit of shipping Marines he didn't like to Thule, and I sure as hell didn't want that to happen. It would ruin my plans. I hopped out of bed, into my uniform, and headed to the damn Spook School. On the way, I placed a call to JAG, to alert them just in case I needed some legal help. Shit, this car still smells like rotten raw meat. Flashback, Ben Night 6, Spook School. Jack and Mira regrouped with me, and Mira immediately started figuratively biting me in the butt about my butt. But we had bigger fish to fry than my butt. I knew Jack and I were golden because we hadn't fired our weapons. However, Mira was a different story. I commanded Mira, "Leave my butt alone for right now. We're in much bigger trouble. Did you discharge your rifle?" She proudly smiled at me. "Yes, my boyfriend. I was defending you and fired 4 magazines." I shook my head and ordered, "Okay, ditch that rifle and take my M4. Here are 4 mags to replace the ones you fired." She gave me a puzzled look and Jack interjected, "Mira, while we violated protocol by leaving the exercise area, you destroyed it by firing your weapon. Ben is giving you his weapon, so you won't get into trouble." Flashback, Mira, Night 6, Spook School. Aha. Now I understood my boyfriend was protecting me. I replied, "But won't you get into trouble, my boyfriend?" He answered, "Mira, they don't have any idea I had my M40 bolt-action sniper rifle here tonight. As long as we don't tell them, They will never know you fired your rifle. I countered, but I could tell them I fired towards the exercise area. He smiled and answered, yes, but that wouldn't explain why Jack and I never fired our weapons. It's little discrepancies like this the investigators will be looking for. Aha. I was proud at how smart my boyfriend was and how he was concerned for my safety. Kai ran up, I handed him my rifle and ordered, Kai, you need to take this rifle and disappear from the school. He nodded his head and replied, yes, Ms. Sedankina, I understand. I took my boyfriend's extra rifle and magazines, and we walked towards the exercise area. There were a large number of people headed towards us. Sergeant Reynolds said, well, this is where the shit hits the fan. I did not understand because they were not carrying excrement or fans. Flashback, Major M, Morning 7, Spook School. We walked out of the commandant's office after all the smoke had cleared. The sun was rising, lending pastel hues to a awakening world. Things weren't completely done yet because the investigators from NCIS, the FBI, and one other three-letter branch of the government were still trying to piece together the details of what went on last night. They had teams combing the hills and found a tremendous amount of evidence, mostly spent shell cases. Some were from an AK-74, a whole bunch were from M16s, and there were many from a 7.62 sniper rifle. They were the most peculiar because they had little hearts drawn on each case. But it looked like my Marines and Ms. Sedankina were found clear of everything. They never even fired their weapons, plus the lance corporal had been shot in the butt. It just grazed him, so other than his pride he wasn't hurt. The three of them were calm, much too calm, during the questioning, so I knew there was more to this story than I was being told. I studied Ms. Sedankina, Sergeant Reynolds, and the lance corporal. I knew the lance corporal was the ringleader of this ragtag outfit, so I ordered, Lance Corporal, we need to take a walk. Ms. Sedankina bristled and said, Mike, just what sort of walk are you planning with my boyfriend? I laughed and answered, Ms. Sedankina, this time we are taking a real walk. Now that we are by ourselves, I just want to find out what really went on rather than that cock and bull story you three gave to the investigators. The lance corporal fell in beside me. We walked away and I asked, okay, what really happened last night? I can't believe none of you discharged your weapons. He smiled at me and said, sir, Sergeant Reynolds and I did not discharge our weapons. I grinned and added, what about Ms. Sedankina? He grinned and answered, sir, you saw her weapon. It had never been fired and all her magazines and rounds were accounted for. I clapped him on the back. It scared him, and he jumped. I replied, Lance Corporal, I know you gave Ms. Sedankina your M4 because it was Marine issue. Now do you wish to tell me the truth? I noticed worry on his face and he said, sir, I was in command of Mira and I take all the blame for what happened on this exercise. I smiled at him. Don't worry, Lance Corporal, I talked to my friends on the NCIS and we covered your butt on this one. Just make sure you get your weapon back from her and learn from this lesson to be more thorough next time. I'm not so concerned with Ms. Sedankina, but I would like to know why you and the sergeant didn't discharge your weapons. He grinned and said, sir, I was too busy getting shot in the butt, and I don't have any idea why Sergeant Reynolds never fired his weapon. You need to ask him that question. My NCIS guys had done an outstanding job, but there were still too many questions and not enough answers. I sure wasn't going to get those answers from the Lance Corporal. From the orientation of the cases, they determined there was one sniper with an AK-74 which fired only at the Lance Corporal. The mystery sniper with the hearts on the cases was actually a counter sniper and fired only at the AK sniper. There were 3 men and 1 woman, probably Ms. Sedankina, which mistakenly fired only at the counter sniper. One of them might have hit her. We could tell from the size of her boots she was a she, because there was a small amount of blood at her location. But why the hell didn't the sergeant discharge his weapon? I had heard rumors and had my suspicions, but that's all they were. However, it was the most puzzling question of all. I laughed, clapped my Lance Corporal on the back again and said, well, I guess I need to ask him. But I already knew he would never tell me. Present, Jack, Extended Stay Hotel, Washington, D.C. What the hell? It seems like I just got to sleep and now the phone's ringing. Shit. It wakes up Masha and Ivan. And now Ivan's upset. I grab the phone and bellow, hold on a minute, I'll be right back. I get Ivan, put him in the bed with Masha and me, then I pick up the receiver and continue. This had better be important. Linus responds, Jack, can you come down to the police station and bail us out? I ask Linus, what the hell did you do now? He answers, listen, Jack, we got pulled over on the way to the hotel. I interrupt and exclaim, Linus, don't tell me you let Jens drive again. Haven't you learned anything? Linus sighs and says, Jack, just get your butt down to the station. I shake my head and promise, I'll be there as soon as I can. Present, Jens, an hour or so earlier on the way to the Extended Stay Hotel, Washington, D.C. I'm still grumpy as a grizzly about not catching and bringing my runaway fiancé back home with us. Linus is driving, not doing anything crazy at all, and suddenly there are flashing lights, cop lights, in my side mirror. That cheers me up a little, so I giggle as I do my best Dan Aykroyd impression. Shit. Linus questions. What? I continue my Dan Aykroyd performance. Rollers? Linus replies, shit. Yince, we aren't the Blues Brothers, so cut the cheesy quotes. I continue to chuckle and chirp. You want cheesy quotes? How about this one? Did you get my cheese whiz, boy? Then I get serious and remind him with another quote. Oh yeah? Well, me and the Lord, we have an understanding. We're on a mission from God. Linus shakes his head, pulls over and says, Yince, don't quit your day job and let me do the talking. I giggle and think, fat frickin' chance, this is too much fun. I watch in the rearview mirror as the cops approach the car and I open the passenger door and jump out. One of them yells at me, Mister, get back in the car. Well, that fires me up, so I sass him, Mister, do I look or sound like a frickin' mister to you? Just for that, no donuts for you. Linus yells at me, Yince, get back in the car or else. I'm not sure what the or else is going to be, so I get back in the car and the cops simmer down. One walks up beside Linus' rolled-down window. His belly's so big he looks like he's 15 months pregnant. I giggle and wonder when was the last time he saw his dingling. Linus says, sorry officers, we've had a bad day and my friend is a little upset. Just why did you stop me? The cop says, your brake lights are burned out. I laugh my rear off and explosively expound. See, Linus, I told you so. You used the brakes so much you burned out the bulbs. Then I holler over to the cop, that's about the lamest excuse for stopping someone I've ever heard of. What's wrong? Is your donut fund getting low? Here's a few bucks for your fund. Now leave us alone. I dig in my purse, find a couple 20s, wad them up and toss them out the window, hitting him in his bulging belly. Linus yells at me, Julia, cut it out. The cop can barely bend down but then shines his flashlight in my face and says, are you trying to bribe me? I smile, giggle and answer, that depends. Do you take cash bribes, or do you only take donuts? The cop replies, miss, I think you're drunk. Please step out of the car. I sass, make up your frickin' mind. First you want me to get back in the car, now you want me to get out of the car. Just which one is it? My door opens and surprises me, so I jump out of the car, accidentally catch the other cop square on the jaw with the top of my head, and he drops like a ton of donut-stuffed bricks. I giggle and say, uh-oh, I guess I made a boo-boo. On Linus' side, his portly partner pulls his pistol and shouts, get on the ground right now. I've been to a real prison, and I'm sure not going to their crappy jail cell, so I say, no frickin' way, that was an accident. You want me on the ground, you're going to have to put me on the ground. Then I take off running. The donut-debilitated cop waddles after me and yells, stop or I will shoot. I yell back, like you could hit me, you big fat tub o' donut lard. I almost get away, when another cop car starts driving down the street toward me. I look hard, but see there are no alleys. I'm trapped between a tub o' donut lard and Starsky and Hutch. The two new cops bail out of their car and run toward me. One is bald, so I giggle and yell, look, Kojak is here to save the day. I'm not paying attention and tub o' donut lard tackles me, so we begin fighting on the ground. The third cop joins in the fight. He smells bad. He probably hasn't had a bath for days, so I yell, get off me, you fat frickin' Magnum B.O. The Kojak cop, standing close to us, yells, get clear. The two I'm fighting with roll away, and I wonder what they're up to. I hear a loud pop, feel the barbs stick in me, and the last thing I remember is thrashing around on the ground. Present, Jack, police station, Washington, D.C. Son of a bitch. Rousted out of my warm bed beside my hot wife by the crazy antics of a broken-down old seal and a crazy Yince. If this is what it's like to have teenage daughters, I'm going to get fixed ASAP. Those two are going to pay for their bullshit. I storm into the police station, walk up to the desk and say, I think you have a couple of my friends here. The desk sergeant glares at me and says, oh yeah. Well, who are they? I give him their names. He gets serious and says, yeah, those two are in big trouble. I shake my head and question, don't tell me, speeding or reckless driving. The desk sergeant gets even more serious and spends 5 minutes reading me the litany of charges against Yince and the 2 charges against Linus. One being the burned-out brake lights, the other assaulting an officer. I can't believe it. What the hell went on with those two? I offer, well, I'd like to post their bail. He replies, well, you can certainly post bail for Linus Gates, but Jennifer Donaldson can't get out until she has a hearing with a judge in the morning. I control my temper but demand, what? Why can't she be released on bail tonight? He grins at me and explains, it seems she has multiple outstanding warrants. I shake my head slowly, afraid to ask, what for? He grins again. He's enjoying this way too much. Failure to pay parking tickets. Son of a bitch. Failure to pay parking tickets. I can't believe it, but ask anyway. Well, just how many parking tickets does she have? The desk sergeant smiles as he responds. We've been after her forever because she has more than anyone in DC has ever had. 43. I can't believe it. Jens is on some sort of one-woman parking ticket crime spree. I resign myself to the inevitable and say, well, let me post bail for Mr. Gates. I post Linus's bail, sit on my butt forever and wait for him to show up. He finally shows up. I grab him by the arm, rush him outside and say, just what the hell went on? Present Linus, outside the police station, Washington, D.C. Jack is pissed as hell and I don't blame him. He rushes me outside the police station and asks me, just what the hell went on? So I tell him how Jens went wild and all the things she did. He gives me a dirty look and asks, so what about the assaulting an officer charge for you? I look him in the eyes and say, I beat the shit out of an officer. He tossed Jens again after she had been tossed once and was already unconscious. He replies, the scumsucker. I would have done the same thing. I ask, so they wouldn't let you bail Jens out? Jack fumes, hell no. They said she had outstanding warrants for parking tickets. She has to appear before a judge in the morning. I chuckle and Jack asks, what's so funny about that? I respond, well, with the mood Jens is in, I pity the other women in her holding cell. Present, Jens, holding cell, Washington, D.C. I know I'm in deep doo-doo when they just don't throw me in a holding cell. Instead, they make me change my clothes to a frackin' prison orange jumpsuit. Orange is not my best color, and it sure as heck isn't my favorite color. In fact, this is the first time I've worn orange since my time in prison, and just having to wear it makes me one cranky biatch. Adding to that, I'm still stiff and sore from the donut-eating illegitimate son tossing me, which was a cheap pansy-booty trick. I hate getting tossed. I am smart enough not to mess with the female guards because normally they don't bother with the tasers, they just beat you with their nightsticks. And if you get them too upset, it's the rubber hoses late at night. Besides, once they learned I beat the heck out of a couple donut eaters, I was sort of a heroine to them. Seems they don't care for the donut lard donut breaths any more than I do. They march me down to the cell and throw me in with the rest of the dregs of society, and I feel right at home. After losing Ben, I'm a loser just like them. I move over to the side of the cell, sit on a bench, and mind my own business. It starts right after the guards leave. Some fat cow black mama jama comes up and demands, hey cracker, what you in for? Ja go over limit on your Visa card? The rest my cellmates laugh. I glare at her and mutter, no fat cow mama jama crack ho. I beat the crap out of a couple donut-eating cops. She spits back, who ya callin', a crack ho? I giggle and taunt, you. I even hear you're from Idaho. She comes back with a threat. I gonna kick that cracker but if yas then I'm making you my bitch. I stand up and say, oh yeah, I'm going to biatch slap you so hard your mama's going to scream. She jumps towards me so I step out of the way, grab her by the back of the head and slam her head first into the wall. She falls to the floor like a 500-pound bag of Idaho potatoes. I giggle because she jiggles like jello. That fires up the rest of the dregs in the cell with me, and it's a huge frickin' fight. I make sure to keep my back against the wall and wait for them to come to me. A little Chiquita runs towards me. I wait till she gets close enough and kick her in the face. She slides to the floor as if she slipped on a banana peel. Two big black mama jamas, I think they're the jello crack ho biatchs, try to double-team me. I grab both their heads and crack them together, then push them on top of the jello crack ho and announce, looks like we have a full bowl of jello. All the noise, of course, attracts the guards, but they're smart biatchs, so they wait until it's over, and I'm the last girl standing before they come into the cell. I know the routine, so I automatically turn, put my hands on the wall, spread my legs, and wait. But I can't believe what the sneaky biatchs do to me. Present, Jack, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. After Linus tells me what went on, I know I need to spend the rest of this early morning talking to a lawyer, so we head to the Truth Network and to our office. We walk into the office, and it's even worse than I remembered. I fight back the urge to puke. It looks like the scumsucker child of Salvador Dali and Andy Warhol, as if two men could have a child. I look around and announce to Linus, this office is foobard. Some psycho bitch on LSD must have done the decorating. Megan walks in behind me and I turn and notice her arms are full of more decorating shit. She says, thanks Jack, that psycho bitch on LSD you just referred to would be me. What's wrong with my interior decorating? I feel it's both functional and fun, just what this office needs. I glare at her and think, no, it's more like dysfunctional and dreadful. But I avoid the issue by saying, Megan, we have a huge problem. Jens went ballistic last night and is locked up in jail. She smiles and orders, well, get your butt down there and bail her out. Damn bossy woman. I respond, Megan, I was just down there and bailed Linus out. They wouldn't let me bail Yentz out because she's a one-woman parking ticket crime spree, and she has to appear before the judge in the morning. Plus, she insulted and beat up a couple of police officers and has a laundry list of charges against her. I think they're going to try to throw the book at her. She grins, flips her hair and orders, Jack, you and Linus go back to the hotel and catch some sleep. Just leave this to me, and I will take care of everything. By the way, when you get there, kick Maria's fat lazy Mexican but out of bed. Tell her to go into Yentz's room and bring me Yentz's best suit. A change of nice underwear, nylons and toiletries, especially a razor. I was happy as hell to have this load off my shoulders, so I let the bossy bitch see if she can handle it. I grin and reply, will do. Linus and I head for the door. Megan annoyingly reminds us, don't forget what I said about Maria. Linus and I both wave our hands and say, yeah, we won't forget. We hit the hallway, get a safe distance away, and Linus complains, damn, she is one bossy bitch. I don't know how you put up with it. I grin at Linus and agree. Yeah, if they had a henpecking contest, she'd easily win first prize. Let me tell you my secret. Every time some woman henpecks me, I just remember how lucky I am to have a lovely and beautiful wife who is just the opposite. Linus asks, you mean Masha isn't that way? I respond, hell no, Russian women know how to treat their men. Besides, I prefer to get even not angry. So watch The Master and learn a few lessons on revenge. Present, Megan, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. I tried my best to fall back to sleep last night after my phone call with Liz, but I couldn't, so I came down to the office and poked around. I finally found the items Liz had in her office before Yentz destroyed it. It was one of the most beautiful offices I'd ever seen. I incorporated some of those items in with some of the things I'd had used to decorate it earlier, and I really like the office again. I sure hope Liz likes it when she gets back today. Then Jack has the audacity to come in and insult my hard work. Screw him and his antiquated opinions. I'm sure Liz will love it. He is just upset about Yentz being kept overnight in jail. Frankly, it will do her some good. She's become one annoying little bratty bitch and needs to be taken down a couple notches, but not so many notches that it upsets Liz. I sit at the desk, admire my excellent design work, tap a pencil on my teeth, and think about the best way to solve Yentz's problem. Finally, it hits me. I have a brilliant idea. I grab the phone, wake up my favorite shyster lawyer, promise him a huge fee, which the bratty bitch will gladly pay, and start typing up my notes on the computer. Present, Linus, Extended Stay Hotel, Washington, D.C. I catch a few on the way back to the hotel. Wake up when Jack stops the car and he says, come on, Seal. Time for you to learn the fine art of revenge. We head into the hotel, take the elevator to our floor, walk to Maria's room, and Jack beats the hell out of her door. The noise reverberates in the hallway and reminds me of IEDs going off in Iraq. He keeps banging and starts yelling, Maria, wake up. I make a mental note to never let Jack wake me up. Present, Maria, Extended Stay Hotel, Washington, D.C. Son of a bitch. It sounds like World War III in the hallway. Someone is banging the hell out of my door, and it scares me so badly I almost piss my bed. Then I hear Jack yelling, Maria, wake up. The crusty old fart. I'm going to kick his butt. I touch my face, grimace from the pain of the bruises from last night, and add, right after I kick his bony wife's butt, I jump out of bed, head to the door, throw it open, and look at the surprised faces of Jack and Linus. Then I realize I don't have any clothes on, slam the door and yell, give me a second. Jack, the scumsucker, starts banging on the door again and yelling. I run back into my room, toss the top drawer, and finally find a t-shirt that barely covers my butt. I run back to the door, open it, and they're both grinning like Cheshire cats. I snap, I hope you two got your jollies from that. This had better be important, or I'm going to kick both your butts. Jack continues to grin and says, we have an order for you from Megan. Now remember, we are just the messengers, so don't kill us. She said to tell you to get your fat, lazy, incompetent Mexican but out of bed, go into Yentz's room, and fetch Yentz's best suit, a change of nice underwear, nylons, and toiletries, especially a razor. And she added to make it snappy. I hadn't even had a cup of joe yet, and I'm not sure I heard him right, so I ask, what the hell did you just say? He and Linus explained to me how my princess boss went wacko, beat up some cops, has 43 outstanding parking tickets, and needs to appear before a judge in the morning. Then Jack grins like hell as he repeats Megan's order. I glare at him and ask, those were her words? Jack says, yeah, that seems to be almost her exact words. That bony bitch. Where does she get off talking to me like that? I'm going to make her pay. It wakes me better than 5 cups of black coffee. I order, you two wait here while I go change into some clothes. I grab my BDUs, head into the bathroom. Present, Linus, Extended Stay Hotel, Washington, D.C. I grin at Jack, and he grins back. Damn, what a devious old devil dog. He repeated almost word for word what Megan told us, and now Maria is one pissed-off bitch on a mission. Let me revise that. After seeing her fine, firm, nude body in the doorway, she's a hot-as-hell pissed-off bitch on a butt-kicking mission. And there's nothing I like better than watching two women fight. Jack nudges my elbow and nods his head towards her nightstand. I look over and, no way. She has. I can't believe it. She has an electronic boyfriend lying there. Maria walks out of the bathroom and notices where we're looking. We blush as she announces, don't get all worked up. There's not a decent man to be found in all of DC, and believe me, I've looked. They're all like parking spots. The good ones are taken, and the rest aren't worth it. So, like most people, I've had to figure things out on my own. Stop staring. We've got work to do. Now, let's get all this stuff out of Jin's room and head to the station. I want to have a little talk with that bossy, bony troublemaker. Jack nudges my arm and winks at me as we storm down to Yin's room. Maria unlocks the door, flies into Yin's room as Jack and I pause at the doorway. I blink and rub my eyes because I can't believe what the hell I'm seeing. I look at Jack and determine he's as amazed as I am. I carefully ask Maria, is this the way Yin's room normally looks? She stops, looks around, turns towards us and says, yeah, this is pretty much normal for her room. No, get your minds out of the gutter because there isn't an electronic boyfriend on the nightstand. In fact, the room is marine spotless. It's what's on the walls that troubles both of us. It's covered, well, not completely covered, with pictures of Ben. But the pictures aren't troubling. It's the many blow gun darts sticking out of each picture. Some even have little notes on them. I analyze the location of the darts and realize none of them are in lethal locations, but most of them are in painful, some very painful, locations. I walk over and pull out one of the darts with a note on it. Maria complains, you'd better put that back or Yinz will kick your butt. She doesn't like anyone messing with her effigies. I took all the darts out of one once, and she bitch slapped the hell out of me. I read the note, carefully put the dart back in the exact same place, look at Jack and shake my head. He goes to speak and I hold my finger up to my lips. Maria announces, I'm done, let's get to the station. We head down, jump in the car, and Jack drives sedately to the station while Maria fumes in the back seat. Present, Maria, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. Jack is driving slower than my grandmother, so I loudly complain. Hey jackass, you think you can drive a little faster? I just think I saw grandmother moving faster than we are. Jack gives me a dirty look and explains, I've had my fill of police stations for the night, so sit back and shut up. By the way, the next time you call me a jackass, I'm going to start calling you 304. When we finally get to the network, I jump out of the car with all of Yin's crap in my arms and make a beeline for the office. Present, Jack, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. It's all I can do to keep from laughing when we get to the network. Maria flies out of the car while it's still moving, takes all of Yin's crap and runs into the building, swearing up a storm under her breath. Linus yells, Jack, get this car parked. I don't want to miss any of the action. We park and head inside as I ask Linus, so you learn anything? He laughs, yeah, I learned not to get you pissed off at me and not to let you wake me up in the morning. But aren't you worried those two will really hurt each other? I remember trying to stop the fight between them earlier, getting knocked out and answer, not really. Those two need to work this shit out between themselves. I interfered earlier and paid a hell of a price for it. So, you want to make a little bet on who's going to win? Linus laughs, that's easy. Maria is going to kick Megan's butt. I reply, put your money where your mouth is, because I think there's much more to Megan than meets the eye. Linus offers, I've got a C-note that says Maria kicks her butt. I laugh and counter with, shit, let's make it 2. Linus shakes my hand and taunts, this will be like taking candy from a baby. I laugh, yeah, you'll be crying like that baby when you hand me my 200. Present, Linus, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. We walk into the office and see that it's totally destroyed, which I have to say is an improvement over the way it looked last time I was here. But I'm disappointed because the fight is already over. Maria and Megan are both lying in a heap on the floor. I look around the room and exclaim, shit no. Jack asks, what the hell is wrong? It looks to me like we missed the fight and both lost. I answer, those two destroyed the computer. Now I have to rebuild everything. Jack questions, didn't you back up your work? I reply, of course I did, but it's still going to take a couple hours to get it running again. Jack walks over, nudges Megan with the toe of his boot, reaches down and picks up a piece of hair and says, well, it could be worse. You could still be in jail. Present, Yinz, solitary cell, Washington, D.C. I wake up and I'm darn peed off. I reach and touch my left booty cheek. It's sore as heck. I touch the right, and it's even worse. Those bony biatches tossed me twice, once in each cheek. Bunch of pansy-bootied prima donnas. I should have kicked their booties too. I slowly wake and realize, damn it, I let my teenage angst get me in trouble again. I fight like hell to regain my womanhood. Most people think it's terrible to be in jail or prison, but they just fool themselves. I figured this out while I was in Leavenworth. Real prison is just an outward manifestation of what most people live each day. You see, they walk through this life in denial that they are living in a prison of their own creation. They are prisoners to their work because of things like spouses, mortgage payments, cars, and keeping up with the neighbors. They leave all those things that they work so hard to acquire each morning and go off to a day of solitary servitude. Prison or jail, I laugh. Because I've been locked up since that fateful day years ago when my heart was chained to Ben. He's just as bad as I am, but hasn't realized it yet. So jail or prison, it's a piece of frickin' cake compared to what I live each day. The only time I was truly free were those few glorious months I spent with Ben in Hawaii and the even shorter time we fought beside each other. Now that was living outside the walls of my own personal prison. Oh well, at least I'm in solitary again. I like it much better here because I don't have to watch my back all the time. I flip on my back, but it hurts the hell out of my butt. So I turn towards the wall, pick at the paint, wonder what the hell my runaway fiancé is doing, and start humming one of Ben's favorite Lynyrd Skynyrd songs. Then I softly sing the words as tears run down my cheeks. Well, them four walls of Rayford closin' in on me. Doing 3 to 5 hard labor for armed robbery. I had 2 years behind me, but I could not wait the time. Every time I thought about Ben, well, I died some more inside. I missed the hell out of him. I sure hope he didn't marry the young sneaky little bitch. I giggle and think, if he did, I might have to shoot both of them. Present, Linus, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. I respond to Jack, yeah, that's funny. At least I'm not in jail. No, this is worse than jail because I've got to fix what these 2 bitches broke. But I decide first I'm going to fix their problem once and for all. I go to my bag and pull out 2 pair of handcuffs. Jack watches me and asks, Linus, what the hell are you doing? I respond, I'm tired of this bullshit and I'm going to fix the situation. I drag the 2 women so they are back to back and handcuff both their hands to each other. Then I go to the water cooler, rip off the bottle, walk over and start to dump it on both of them. They wake up and start squalling like a pair of wet cats. Megan yells, Present, Megan, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. I yell, stop trying to drown me, you son of a bitch. I try to move but realize I'm restrained. And let me go, you scumsucker. I open my eyes and see Linus standing over me with the water cooler bottle, but he's not smiling. In fact, he's more pissed off looking than I've ever seen him. He yells, you 2 screwed up my computer with your fight. I'm tired of the bullshit between you. Now you're both going to stay handcuffed together until I finish repairing the computer. Maria starts shouting, let me go so I can kick her bony butt again. She yanks her arms and the handcuffs hurt my wrists, so I complain. Maria, stop it, that makes my wrists hurt. Linus grins and dumps more water on us. I yell, Linus, you scumsucker. Cut it out. He dumps water on us again and Maria yells, you scumsucker. Stop it. He dumps it again and I say to Maria, I think the scumsucker is going to keep doing this until we shut up. Maria bitches, then shut up, bitch. And Linus dumps more water on us and says, that's right, I'm going to keep dumping water on you until you both shut up. Maria yells, oh yeah, what happens when you run out of water? Linus dumps more water on us and says, then I guess I will just have to gag both of you. I plead, Maria, please don't say anything for right now. Being restrained is bad enough, but I don't think I could stand being gagged. Present, Maria, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. I hear the fear in Megan's voice about being gagged and suddenly a light clicks on in my head. Sometime in her past, some scumsucker did shit like this to her, and I can't help but feel sorry for her. This has to be hell on her. I stop fighting and say, Linus, you need to let us go. He replies, no way. Not until you 2 learn to live with each other and not fight. I respond, Linus, listen to me. I'm not going to fight with her, and you need to let us go right now. He answers, how can I trust you? I laugh and offer with a flirt, tell you what, big boy, if I fight with her again, you can put me over your knee and spank me. Present, Jack, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. Something has happened here between Megan and Maria that I don't quite comprehend, but I know what needs to be done. I use my command voice and order, Linus as the one Jens placed in charge of this team. I command you to let both of them go. He gives me a questioning look. I nod my head. He gets the key, lets them go and jumps back, fearing retribution. We are both surprised when Maria rolls over. hugs Megan and says, "Megan, I understand and I'm so sorry." Megan starts to cry. Linus looks at me. I shrug my shoulders and ask, "Don't you need to fix a computer?" He replies, "I think that can wait for a little bit. How about we get a cup of coffee?" Glad to have an excuse to leave the room, I answer, "That's an excellent idea." We leave the room and head to the cafeteria. On the way, Linus asks, "Jack, what the hell just happened?" I respond, "I'm not exactly sure, but I think you fixed the problem, at least for now, between Maria and Megan." He says, "I sure hope that by fixing the problem, I've not become their common enemy." I answer, "No, I think if that was the case, they would have kicked you, but when you let them go. By the way, now that we're alone, what did you want to tell me about Yin's room?" His face grows serious as he explains, "Jack, Yin spent a good portion of yesterday talking about shooting Ben. Enough that I got a bit concerned she was serious. And after seeing what she did to the pictures of Ben on the walls of her room, I think she's serious." I remember the picture of Ben and the darts and agree, Linus, I think she's more than serious. I think she's already planned on where she's going to shoot him. Present, Megan, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. Shit. Maria has figured out parts of my secret. I've been so careful for so long to hide the abuse my ex-husband put me through. I thought by knowing he's gone forever I would be safe. But Linus restraining us and then drowning us with water brought back the memories, and I almost suffered an attack of PTSD. Maria is hugging me, stroking my hair, comforting me, and it feels wonderful being in her arms. She says, "Megan, I want to apologize for being such a hothead pain in the butt." I smile at her and answer, "And I want to apologize for being such a bossy bitch." We look deep into each other's eyes. Maria says, "Sorry, Megan. I'm really not that way. But if I was, you'd be my first choice." I hug her and say, "I know you're not, so don't worry about it. But we can at least be good friends." She grins, "By the way, I'd love to teach the scumsucker who hurt you a lesson." I tremble and say, "Thanks, but he can't bother me anymore." I can't let her or anyone else know the whole story. There are crimes for which the statute of limitations doesn't apply. Present, Maria, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. Well, and I'm not talking about 3 holes in the ground. Megan, calm, collected, and in control. But Megan has some serious skeletons in her closet. Oh, I'd figured out the Leslie thing shortly after I met her, and it didn't bother or scare me. Shit. Some of my best friends of both genders are gender benders, but some scumsucker did some terrible shit to her. For her to not be worried about him anymore could only mean one thing. I didn't think Megan, sweet little Megan, had the balls to do that. I pull away with a new respect for her, stand up, offer her my hand, and help her up. She did what every woman should do when they're abused. She offed the scumsucker. We'd wasted the office with our fight and wasted enough time with our chit-chat, so I say, "What are your plans for my princess boss?" She gives me a confused look, then laughs. "Oh my God. You mean you call Yince your princess boss? She must hate that." I smile and answer, "Well, I don't call her that to her face anymore." Megan laughs. "So she must have kicked your butt." I interrupt, "Actually, we fought to a draw. After that, I agreed to stop calling her princess." Megan whistles, "Wow, you fought her to a draw? That's impressive. No wonder you kicked my butt." I smile, touch my bruised face, and say, "Well, it seems to me you fought me to a draw, so you should be pretty proud of yourself." Megan laughs, "Hey, I was fighting to save my life." I respond, "Well, you did call me a fat, lazy, incompetent Mexican, told me to fetch Yince things like a mongrel dog and to make it snappy." Megan covers her mouth and apologizes. "Sorry about that. I was pissed at Jack for knocking my decorating. Wait, I never called you incompetent, and I sure as hell never used the word fetch. Using the term, make it snappy, is not something I would ever say." Shit. I can tell she's telling me the truth, so I respond, "You know something, sister? I think we've been set up by Gramps." I see Megan get pissed and she answers, "That sneaky old scumsucker. I know we've been set up." Then I worry about Linus and ask, "You think Linus had anything to do with it?" She shakes her head. "No, I don't think so. And I think I've figured out a perfect way to get even. But first we need to get moving on getting your princess boss out of jail." I ask, "You think you can get her out after all she did? You must be a miracle worker." Megan laughs, "Hell yes, I can get her out. That's going to be the easy part. Keeping Yince out of jail afterward will be the hard part." From the twinkle in Megan's eyes, I can tell this is going to be interesting and fun. I offer, "So what do I need to do?" Megan asks, "Please take Yince all the things I didn't tell you to fetch and make sure she's ready for court at 9 in the morning." I look at the clock and question, "You think I have time to stop by my room, dry off, and change my clothes?" Megan says, "Most certainly, and while you're at it, you also need to wear a suit because you might be called to testify." I'm confused and ask, Are you sure you want me to tell the truth about Yints? Megan laughs and conspires. Hell no. We're all going to lie our cute butts off. After all, this is the American legal system where good lies and great shyster lawyers are the norm. I hug her and say, see you in court, sister. She kisses me on the cheek and says, don't forget to use some concealer to cover up those bruises. I walk towards the door and say, don't forget to do the same. Present, Jack, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. We end up telling warp stories, bullshitting, for too long over our coffee. Finally, I say, well, I figure we've given them enough time to get that crying shit out of their systems. What do you say we head back and get some work done? Linus answers, yeah, I do need to get to work on that computer if we ever hope to have a chance of finding Ben, so Yints can shoot him. I laugh and reply, yeah, that's sorry, scumsucker. Someday he's going to learn not to openly screw with women. You have to be sneaky like I was with Megan and Maria. Linus strokes my ego. Yeah, Jack, that was masterful. Well, let's get moving. We walk into the office and it's been repaired, or I should say screwed up again. Megan is all cleaned up, wearing a clean suit, and has even done something to cover up the bruises on her face. There's also some girl working on the computer system. Megan says, hello, Jack and Linus, glad you two could join us. Suddenly I get this sick feeling in the pit of my stomach and feel as nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Linus says, who's the kid working on my computer? The kid smiles and says, you must be Linus. I've always wanted to meet you. My name is Gretchen. Jennifer Donaldson hired me to work on the computers at the station. Linus defensively answers, well, now that I'm here, I will finish. Megan laughs and replies, Linus, please, we need you to go back to the hotel, clean up, change clothes, and get ready for this morning. Maria is waiting there to take you to court. Because you were with Yints, and also because of the charges you're facing, we need you so we can get Yints out of jail. Gretchen says, don't worry, I'm almost done. When you get back, it should be running fine and collecting the data. Linus looks dumbfounded and says, you were able to figure out everything? Gretchen grins and goes, oh yeah, I'm pretty good at my job. I offer, I think I should go so I can get ready to testify for Yints. Megan smiles at me and says, oh no, Jack, you've done more than enough. So would you please stay here and keep an eye on things? Shit. Somehow Megan knows what I did and now I am screwed. This is one of the things I hate about women. Instead of just shooting you and getting it over with, they toy with you, torture you, and then when you least expect it, bam, they nail you. For once I envy Ben. At least when Yints finds him, it will be over with quickly. As I watch Linus and Megan leave, Megan says, Maria and I will see you later. Oh yeah, I'm screwed. Present, Maria, drive to the courthouse, Washington, D.C. I'm a bit bothered about taking Linus to the courthouse with me, but bothered in a very good way. The way he eyed me when I accidentally came to the door without clothes was unsettling in an even better sort of way. I make sure to leave a couple extra buttons undone on my blouse because I know if I can keep his attention on my breasts, he won't notice my hips. Yeah, I guess I could lose about a size or two off my hips. But if my girls do their job, he'll never even notice. It must work because I catch him checking out my rack as we head to the courthouse. Shit, I just wish he'd ask me out. Can't he tell I'd say yes to almost, no probably, anything he asked? Oh well, once again I need to take matters into my own hands. I glance at him, smile and ask, hey Linus, you want to go grab a bite of lunch when this kangaroo court is over? Damn, he has a nice smile and says, you think it will be done by lunchtime? Shit, why the hell can't he just say yes? I respond, oh, I'm pretty sure it will be done by then. So how about grabbing lunch? I'll even treat. And I think, yeah, I'll treat and you'll be my dessert. That seals the deal, and he says, I'd love to go to lunch with you, but how can you be so sure this will be over by then? I laugh and say, Linus, I bet you taking me to dinner that it doesn't even last an hour and a half. He grins and accepts the wager. I'll take that bet. I smile and wonder what sort of room service dinner the extended stay hotel offers. If nothing else, we can always order pizza. We continue to make small talk as I drive to the courthouse. And yes, I can tell my girls are doing their job very well. Present, Maria, courthouse, Washington, D.C. I'm not sure what sort of strings Megan pulled, but I am able to get in to see my princess boss early. I'm glad I can because my princess boss looks like hell. She's moving pretty slowly, acts pretty damn sore, and looks beat up, so I ask, Yints, what's wrong with you? She hugs me and says, Maria, it's wonderful to see you. You'd be sore and stiff too if you'd been tossed 3 times. I pull back from her and ask, they tossed you 3 times? Shit. When I was tossed, it felt like I was hit by a semi-truck. No wonder you're so sore. Where did this happen? She bravely smiles and says, well, the first one was the officers on the street, and I guess I deserved that one. The other 2 were here in the communal holding cell. There was a fight, and I was the only one left standing. I turned around, faced the wall, and they tossed me in the butt twice, once on each side. Having been in jail a few times myself, and having taken and failed the police department exam, I know this is not right. This is bullshit police brutality. There's no way in hell she should have been tossed when facing the wall. I'm pissed off, but know I need to hide it from her. I cheerfully say, well, I'm here now to help you get cleaned and dressed up for your court appearance. Megan and your lawyer will be here soon, and I just know you're going to get out of here today. She gives me a dejected look and says, why bother after what I've done to chase Ben away? I deserve to be in here. I want to slap the hell out of her, tell her he's a scumsucker and she deserves better, but I know better and lie through my teeth. Well, it's too bad you've given up because we have a great lead on where he is. Jens gets real excited and says, really, Maria? Tell me all about it. I continue the lie. Jens, not now. We need to concentrate on getting you ready for court and then out of here. Why don't you go shower while I make a quick phone call? Jens is moving much better as she heads towards the showers while I step out and place a phone call to Megan. Present, Jens, Courthouse, Washington, D.C. I'm happy when Maria shows up since it's good to see a friendly face. She talks about getting me out of here, but I really don't want to leave. There's no reason to. Then she tells me they know where Ben is, and suddenly, I can't wait to get out of here and track him down. That gives me an idea. I think I need my own taser to test on him and see how he likes it. Maybe I can even get one with extra power. I scrub away the grime from jail, washing it out of my hair and feeling refreshed. Maybe Ben is even nearby today, and I'll have a chance to run into him while wearing the sharp business suit Maria brought me. The skirt has a small slit on the side, and I decide to adjust it slightly for a bolder look. I take a seat in front of the mirror, wincing slightly from the soreness, then cross my legs and assess the outfit. It's definitely a sharp and confident choice. Maria walks in, catches me checking myself out, and lets out a playful whistle. I blush as she says, present, Maria, Courthouse, Washington, D.C. I'm damn pissed off when I step out to make the phone call to Megan. So I take a couple of deep breaths, compose myself, and place the call. Megan answers on the second ring and says, is something wrong, Maria? I lose my composure and say, the scumsuckers here at the jail tossed Jens in the butt twice, for no reason at all. I hear Megan quickly breathe in and she says, Maria, you're telling me she was tossed twice in the butt while she was in jail? I reply, yeah, and it really screwed her over. She was moving like an old grandmother when I first saw her. Megan says, Maria, wait a second and let me describe this to our lawyer. I pace the hallway, anxiously awaiting to hear from Megan. She finally comes back on the phone and enthusiastically says, Maria, I could just kiss you. We have the police report and they clearly tossed her in the front. So the lawyer says this is definitely a case of police brutality. Do you still have the digital camera I gave you? I hope to use it on Linus later, so I reluctantly respond, yeah, it's right here in my purse. Megan asks, please make sure you get pictures of all her taser marks. And because she's sort of a celebrity, make sure to be discreet when you take the ones of her tushy. See you in about a half an hour. Yeah, that's what I thought, police brutality. I'm going to find the bitches that did this to my princess boss and teach them the meaning of the word taser. I stop Megan from hanging up and say, Megan, I sort of lied to Jens to cheer her up and told her we had some information about where Ben is. What should I do? The phone is silent for a bit, and at first I think we've lost the connection. Then Megan comes back on and says, Maria, be careful about lying to Jens about stuff like this. But don't worry this time, because I will take care of it for you. See you soon. I breathe a sigh of relief. I really don't want to get my butt kicked anymore today, especially not when I'm hoping to get my butt nailed by Linus. I walk back into the holding room, catch Jens admiring herself in the mirror, and give her a big wolf whistle. She blushes and I say, Jens, you look hot. She grins and says, you like what I did to the dress? I notice the slit and think, yeah, I know where people's eyes will be drawn. I respond, oh yeah, you're going to turn heads. But I have some bad news for you. She frowns and says, don't tell me, Ben escaped again. I laugh. No, Jens. Megan says the lawyer needs photos of all your taser marks, so we need to document them again. She gives me a dirty look and says, not of my butt. I'm not letting anyone take pictures of my butt. I respond, Jens, I will take them really close so no one can see your whole butt. Besides, if I had a butt like yours, I'd want the whole world to see it. She starts changing, laughs, and says, if I had a figure like yours, I'd probably leave even more buttons undone on my blouse. I chuckle, gesture toward myself, and say, yeah, I think my appearance worked in my favor today. Jens raises an eyebrow. What do you mean? I grin. Well, it seems a certain seal you know couldn't stop glancing my way on the trip over. Jens giggles and then laughs. Linus? Linus, are you kidding me? He's like my adopted brother. Don't tell me someone is finally going to get him in bed. I get a little nervous and ask, well, I was hoping to. That is if you don't mind. She laughs some more and says, shit no. It's about time he got some. If he gives you any problems, let me know, and I'll help you tie him to the bed. So, he really checked out your chest the whole drive over here? I nod and feel much better to have her blessing. I get the pictures of the taser mark on her belly and the one on each butt cheek, making sure to be discreet. I show them to her. She frowns and says, damn, my butt is getting flabby. I need to start running again. I notice her checking out my rack. Then I get a great idea and say, hey, how about we give your girls a little help? She blinks and says, what? I say, let's put my bra on you and stuff it. She bites her lower lip and asks, you really think it will work? I grin and say, shit yeah, we used to do this all the time in grade school just to get the boys to notice us. Don't tell me you never did it? She frowns and says, well, I never really had any girls other than Megan who were my friends. So, I take off my scarf since I didn't really need it anyway. Jens puts it on, and we stuff the bottom with tissue to give it some shape. Her blouse barely closes over it, but she looks at herself in the mirror, smiles, and says, you know, I always wished I had a look like this. I reply, you know there are ways to make that happen. The bailiff arrives, and it's time for Jens's day in court. Between her stylish dress and her new look, I know where everyone's attention will be. I just hope Linus still sees her as his little sister. Present, Jack, Truth Network, Washington, D.C. The phone rings. I pick it up and say, this is Jack. Megan coldly says into the phone, listen here, Jack, Maria and I know what you did to us. How you set us up to get in a fight, and we're mad as hell about it. I start to try to say, I don't know. She cuts me off and says, you sure as hell know, so don't lie to me. Now if you don't want me to tell Masha that you've been sleeping with both Maria and me, you'd better listen and listen good. I think shit no. Masha will kill me if they tell her that. I say, Megan, cut the crap and tell me what you want so you'll forget about what I did you to and Maria and to keep you from lying to my wife. She says, it's easy, Jack. We need a lead. Any lead at all on where Ben is. But it needs to be viable and confirmable. I tease, and while you're at it, do you want me to part the Red Sea? Unless we get real lucky, we aren't going to find Ben. She replies, Jack, it's time for you to start thinking outside the box. You know Ben better than anyone, so ask yourself, what would Ben do? She hangs up and I start to think, if I was Ben, what would I do? Present, Megan, courtroom, Washington, D.C. Jens walks into the courtroom with the confidence of a model owning the runway. I glance at her, blink, and wonder when she had such a noticeable change in appearance. The prosecution tries to portray Jens as just another wealthy person using money and influence to get her way. Our slick lawyer, seemingly unimpressed, picks at lint on his jacket, inspects his fingernails, occasionally glances at Jens, coughs at inconvenient moments for the prosecution, and lets out exaggerated yawns. The prosecutor's opening statement is done. Our shyster lawyer stands up and says, Your Honor, I move that all the charges leveled against my client, Jennifer Donaldson, be dropped. The judge asks, on what grounds? Our shyster lawyer says, on the grounds that my client has suffered extreme and demeaning brutality at the hands of the police department. The judge replies, are you able to support these claims with adequate proof? And the three-ring circus begins with a flurry of introduction of evidence, all of which the prosecution vehemently objects to. And all objections are quickly overruled by the judge. Once the judge gets a look at the taser pictures, his face becomes grim, and I know we have won. It is just a formality. Finally, the judge says, I'd like to see the prosecution and the defense in my chambers. I've testified in court many times, and I've always wondered what goes on in the judge's chambers. I mean, do they sit around and look at porn or something? After about 15 minutes they come out. Our shyster lawyer is smiling, and the prosecution looks like he's been to his own funeral. The judge says, will the defendant and counsel please rise? Jens and our shyster lawyer stand, and the judge states, Ms. Jennifer Donaldson, first let me apologize for your egregious treatment at the hands of the law enforcement in this city, and especially the jail system. Be assured that we will be looking into the serious allegations your lawyer has brought to our attention. However, Ms. Donaldson, this court feels that you are not totally without blame. This court feels you have demonstrated a tendency to let your anger cloud your better judgment. Therefore, for the betterment of you and the protection of all those around you, this court mandates that after you successfully complete the anger management course which was proposed by your psychologist, all charges will be dropped and expunged from your record. He bangs the gavel and orders, case closed. Jens hugs our shyster lawyer, then runs towards Maria and I and says, thanks, gals. I couldn't have done it without you. And boy, was that ever fast. Maria winks at Yince and says, yes, just in time for lunch with you-know-who. Yince giggles. I bet I know who you're having for dessert. Maria blushes like crazy, and I wonder who he is. Yince asks me, Megan, what's this anger management course they're talking about? Is that you're doing? I smile and explain, yeah, Yince, it's the only way they would dismiss the case. But it won't be too bad. You meet once a week with a group of women, and you all get to talk about your anger issues, and the therapist gives you ideas on how to cope with your anger. Yince remarks, this sounds like a bunch of boring bullshit. I do just fine with managing my anger, thank you. I explain to Yince, well, you either go to this anger management program or go to jail. Then I continue with Maria's lie, and remember, if you're in jail, you can't find Ben. Yince grins, yeah, I hear we have some information on where he is. Let's head back to the office, but on the way we need to stop and buy a taser. I give her a funny look and ask for an explanation. Yince, do you feel you need a taser for protection? You're one of the toughest women I know. She giggles and says, silly Megan. It's not for me. It's a welcome home gift for Ben. Flashback, Ben. Day 6 of spook school. Again, I slipped away to my tent without being followed, but I knew I needed to talk to the guys and move our bivouac. A move is needed this time because it took a while to lose Mira. I sat on my cot, on my sore butt, and analyzed the live fire exercise from last night. When I focused on my wound, I suddenly shouted, son of a bitch. Tom asked, what's wrong? I shook my head and said, I think I was shot by one of the students and not the sniper. Howard added his question, what makes you say that? I answered, well, when I was hit, I was facing away from the exercise area. Damn it, if I hadn't jumped up, I might not have been shot. But Tom added, but if you hadn't jumped up, you might also be dead. Howard nodded in agreement. Yeah, that's right. I admitted. Yeah, you two are probably right. It just bothers me I was shot, and I want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Tom thoughtfully said, well, we're Marines, and that means anytime we're on a mission, we can be shot. Howard finished the statement, or killed. I nodded my head and agreed, yeah, guys, that's what makes us different. But this school isn't a mission, it's torture. Howard changed the subject and asked, so what's on the schedule for today? I filled them in. After last night's screw-up, the school has suspended all firing exercises. I guess the boneheaded commandant's pissed off, so he's ordered, run until you puke for the whole school. And then we'll have the normal class schedule for tonight. Tom laughed. Does he really think he can run you and Jack until you puke? I looked off in the distance and answered, I don't think the scumsucker commandant even considers us part of the school. I know I sure as hell don't. If it wasn't for that scumsucker Mr. Smith, I wouldn't even be here being subjected to this bullshit torture. I finally added, it was a long night and I'm going to catch some rack time. Why don't you two plan and execute a move while we're out running today? Myra's getting too close to finding our location. I crawled off to sleep on my cot. Flashback, Jack, day 6 of spook school. Damn, what a screwed up day and night. But for once I didn't get my butt kicked, or shot, or have anything bad happen at all. In fact, I got a hell of a kiss from Mira, which only fired up my feelings. Oh, Major M gave me some shit for not discharging my weapon, but he's an officer and shoveling shit is their middle name. I decided with Ben bivouacking with the guys and Kai leaving the school, Mira might be lonely and need someone to talk to. Okay, I really hoped she might offer me another demonstration. So I went by her new room, knocked on the door, but there wasn't an answer. I didn't have a key for this room and didn't want to screw with lock. Since I was tired, I headed back to my room and crashed. Flashback, Mira, day 6 of spook school. Aha, my exhausted boyfriend made a tactical error. He imagined he lost me when actually I tactically fell very far back, observed him, and at long last located his primitive camp. I did not know why he was so insistent that I could not share the camp with him. It was not that terrible at all, and I certainly have abided in many worse locations. Besides, my wounded warrior boyfriend should know that any place I abide with him would be heaven. Even the sty of pig. I observed as he conversed with Tom and Howard and could see my boyfriend became belligerent and upset, but I could not ascertain why. But I was maximally miffed because my irascible, inconsiderate boyfriend refused to let me treat or even examine his wound. However, he allowed an inept, incompetent, blonde bimbo pretending to perform as a paramedic poke and prod his posterior. I had more medical knowledge in my little digital extremity than she did in her entire corporeal self. In fact, if she had prodded him one more time, I would have prodded her posterior orifice with my little foot. But the sucker probably would have savored that. I observed Tom and Howard vacate the primitive campsite while my wounded warrior boyfriend rolled over and fall asleep on his crib. Now was my opportunity to surreptitiously slip into the primitive campsite and examine my boyfriend's wound. However, it would require all my stealth skills to accomplish my task. But first, I prepared a special syringe filled with benzodiazepine serum, which would render my wounded warrior boyfriend temporarily torpid. I made sure to use the minimal diameter needle and hoped my wounded warrior boyfriend would not waken when I injected his corporeal self. Otherwise, I would be forced to apply a more direct method, blunt force to his cranial cavity, to achieve the desired effect. Aha! My wounded warrior boyfriend was much more tired than even I anticipated, and I crept to the side of his crib without his deep breathing changing. I slowly slipped the syringe to the posterior portion of his neck, rapidly inserted the needle, and flooded his body with the serum. In 15 minutes, my wounded warrior boyfriend would be mine. I continued to observe my wounded warrior boyfriend while his respiration rate reduced and regulated, so I knew he was totally torpid. I bumped him slightly, and he did not stir, so it was now safe for me to work. I carefully and nervously lowered his pants. One look at the inferior work the blonde bimbo performed made my blood bubble with heat. If I saw her again, I would exact a revenge she would not relish. I carefully cleaned the wound because the blonde bimbo was not aggressive enough. She was probably distracted by my boyfriend's beautiful bodacious buttocks. I know I was, and had left a few pieces of foreign material which would have become infected. I almost giggled when my boyfriend started moaning during the procedure, but my professional demeanor would not allow any foolishness. I lathered the wound with special antiseptic cream and then, I could not resist, covered the wound with a very bright pink dressing. My professional standards demanded that I also perform a very thorough examination of the anterior portion of his lower body, especially his tool. Even in his torpid condition, he seemed to enjoy my examination. It was a pity that his tool never became functional. Believe me, I tried very hard. Otherwise, we could have had fun. And finally, I decided, since my wounded warrior boyfriend loved pranks, to perform a particular prank on him. Once my prank was completed, I giggled with delight. I was extremely tired and decided not to pass up the opportunity to sleep with my wounded warrior boyfriend. Besides, he needed to be observed until the injection wore off. So I scooted him over on the cot and carefully crawled beside him, held him close and drifted off to sleep. The sun was high in the sky when my alert ears detected the ever-so-slight noise of a returning Howard and Tom. I kissed my boyfriend on the cheek and quickly departed their primitive campsite, going just far enough away to see how my practical prank was perceived. Flashback, Ben. Day 6 of Spook School. Someone shook my shoulders and woke me up. As I turned over, I could see it was Tom. He took one look at me and started laughing. Howard walked up, saw me, joined in the laughter and said, "Damn, Ben, I think you had a visitor. You need to look in the mirror." I jumped off my cot, ran to the mirror, and son of a bitch. Now I know what they were laughing at. Someone had drawn a bunch of lips on my face with bright red lipstick. I started wiping them off with my washcloth and then noticed, what the hell? A blue ribbon sticking out of my pants. I pulled on it and determined it was connected. I dropped my pants and Tom and Howard hooted so hard they fell to the ground. I demanded, "What the hell is so funny?" Tom laughed so hard he had tears streaming from his eyes, and Howard finally said, "Ben, you need to have a look at your new tramp stamp and your wound dressing." I yelled, "What the hell?" Then I tried to twist around and see it, but couldn't get around far enough. So I grabbed my signal mirror, and with the camp mirror I finally saw, son of a bitch. The dressing was god-awful hot pink, but what really disturbing was, hell no, my tramp stamp. Mira had written, in dark black ink, right where a tramp stamp would go. Property of Miranda Sedankina. I scrubbed at it with a washcloth, and I'm not sure what the hell sort of ink she used, but it didn't even lighten it. For a second I worried it was a real tattoo, and I hated tattoos. But there wasn't any pain. I had watched guys grimace when they received tattoos, but without pain I assumed it wasn't really a tattoo. I gave up, went to remove the blue ribbon, and found a little note. Mira was here. I wondered what the hell Mira was doing here while I was unconscious, but decided I might feel better if I didn't know. Tom and Howard were beside themselves with laughter. I sat down, watched them, and finally joined in. After the meat bomb prank in Myra's room, I deserved this and probably even more. I just hoped that tramp stamp would wear off and that it would be gone soon. Flashback, Mira, Day 6 of Spook School. As I observed my boyfriend, I wished I had a movie camera. His antics along with those of Tom and Howard made me laugh so hard I almost voided in my undergarments. I finally understood the mirth associated with pranks. They were extremely enjoyable if you were not the target. I began to cogitate how my years of training could be applied in non-lethal ways of producing entertaining pranks, and immediately had multiple engaging thoughts. I checked my watch and noted I had just enough time to run back to my room, take a shower, get changed, and perform a new prank. Flashback, Jack, Day 6 of Spook School. I had a hell of a nap and was raring to go. Not raring to go for the run, because I hated running. In fact, I had a theory that a person only had so many steps in their life, and the faster they used up those steps, the sooner they died. So running was just a faster way to use up those steps. I had tried many times to explain this theory to the brass and especially to Ben, but they ignored me. I was raring to go to see Mira again. So I had showered, shaved, even put on some aftershave and headed towards Myra's new room. It felt funny as hell not carrying either my rifle or pistol, but the commandant had declared all weapons were to be left in the rooms. I did make sure to wear my combat gear, including my body armor. I knocked on the door and Mira answered it right away. I thought she hadn't finished dressing, so I said, "Mira, you need to get dressed, or we will be late." She grinned at me and said, "But Sergeant Reynolds, I am dressed." Well, I'm certainly not going to look this gift horse in the mouth. If Mira just wants to wear a jog bra and very tiny running shorts, I'm not going to complain much. However, I felt like I needed to ask, "Aren't you worried about being shot?" She grinned and answered, "No, my boyfriend, his friends, and you will make sure to keep me safe. Shall we go meet everyone else?" She locked the door. As we headed down the hallway with her in front, I finally figured out why she wore what she did. I complained, "Mira, what's that on your back?" She wiggled her cute as hell butt and said, "It is my new stamp of a tramp. How do you like it?" I frowned and answered, "I don't care for it at all," which only made her giggle. Flashback, Ben, Day 6 of Spook School. I tried like hell to get Myra's damn tramp stamp off me, but all I got was sore skin. So I resigned myself to the fact I was branded, and I hoped it would eventually wear off. I was, however, pissed at myself for sleeping so soundly she could sneak up on me, do all the shit. I wasn't exactly sure what all the shit was, and leave without me knowing anything. I chalked it up to being tired as hell and getting my butt shot. Speaking of my shot butt, I wasn't sure what she did to it, but it sure did feel better. However, I'm still not sure I want her messing with my butt. I didn't have enough time to head to Jack's room for a shower, so I took a 304 bath with soap. I dressed in some new BDUs, my combat gear, and headed toward the practice field. When I got there, someone was causing quite the stir. As I got closer, I should have known. It was Mira. Shit. She didn't wear her combat gear. She was back to wearing a jog bra and skimpy running shorts. She saw me, ran up, grinned and teased, "Good noon, my boyfriend, how did you sleep?" I answered, "I think you know how well I slept." Jack walked up and interrupted. "What the hell does that mean?" Mira giggled and said, "My boyfriend and I slept together this morning, and he's embarrassed about it." I blushed and Jack asked, "Is that why she got a tramp stamp?" I was confused and worried he meant mine, so I questioned, "Mira got a tramp stamp?" Mira giggled, turned around so I could see her back and said, "Yes, my boyfriend. Do you not remember we each have matching stamps of tramps to show our fealty for each other?" Son of a bitch. Mira had a tramp stamp that said, "Property of Ben Blaine," and it even had a red heart on each side. Jack cajoled. Flashback, Jack, Day 6 of Spook School. What the hell? Did Ben really nail Mira? Is that why she has the tramp stamp? And what's this about Ben having a matching tramp stamp? I teased the hell out of him. "So Ben, you have a tramp stamp too?" "That I'd like to see." Ben bristled. Now I knew it was true, and said, "Screw off, Jack. What are you now? Some sort of rump ranger?" Mira giggled and said, "My boyfriend is shy, so let me show you a picture." Where the hell had she hidden that picture and what she was wearing? I'd love to find out. She handed it to me and I saw Ben's back with the words, "Property of Miranda Sedankina," and a hot pink bandage. I started to tease the hell out of Ben when Mira distracted me. She asked, "Would you like a little peek at my front stamp of tramp?" "What the hell? A front tramp stamp?" I replied, "Do you have a front tramp stamp?" She pulled down the front of her skimpy running shorts, just enough for me and Ben and the big crowd to read. Ben was here. It had matching red hearts on each side. I grinned at Ben and he said, "Jack, I never." I replied, "You're not an officer, so stop trying to feed me shit. Save your stories for the justice of the peace." Our little party was interrupted when the commandant came out and, just like an officer, yelled at all of us for his boneheaded mistakes last night. Then he ordered us to start running. Of course, Mira ran by everyone, making sure they all got a good look at her tramp stamp. I looked at Ben and grinned. Flashback, Ben, Day 6 of Spook School. Shit. 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 Would I? Could I? Did I? One thing was for certain. Jack and the rest of the school were certain I had. It didn't help that Mira was parading her but antlers around in front of everyone like the trophy head of General Ho Chi Minh on the wall of my cabin in Leadville. Then she had to show Jack and the whole school the picture of my matching tramp stamp. But the worst was the front tramp stamp. Had I really been there? Jack grinned at me and I threatened, Jack, wipe that grin off your face before I wipe it off for you. He laughed. I'm the least of your worries. If Maria finds out about the tramp stamps, you're dead. Shit, Jack was right. He always had a way of making me feel even worse. Flashback Mira, Day 6 of Spook School. It was a glorious day. Not only did I get to repair the derriere of my wounded warrior boyfriend, I also slept with my arms around him and had heavenly dreams. And now I have played the best practical prank on him ever. I could tell his head was unable to comprehend if we trained each other. However, everyone talked and whispered about it. Some girls called me over and boldly asked me about the training. I was shocked at first, then lied. Girls, he was the most wonderful and caring man ever, and made sure I was totally happy several times before he was finished. They remarked how romantic that we both had matching stamps of tramps, and I agreed. I heard them cluck like chickens as I ran off. They were quite jealous of me, and I was a ball of the bell. I adored the attention and continued to parade my practical prank. Flashback Ben, Day 6 of Spook School. The damn commandant had one of the worthless instructors following us in a truck and pushing the hell out of the students. No big deal for Jack or me, and certainly no big deal to an almost nude Mira. She was flitting around like a butterfly. No, like the social butterfly she really was, because she was quite the attention 304. The pace, forced by the truck, had the desired effect, and some of the students started to puke. But the scumsucker instructor made them keep running and wouldn't let them ride in the truck. If they slowed up, he would berate the hell out of them over the megaphone in the truck. He even went as far as to bump a couple of them. This was dangerous. I looked over at Jack and said, "This son of a bitch instructor's going to kill someone." He looked at me and absently agreed. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I shook my head. What a bogus lie that was, because he'd been ogling Mira the whole time and had been thinking with his little head. I didn't give him shit about what he was thinking because it wasn't important. Shit, the core was tough, but it sure wasn't stupid like this dickhead. I answered, "I'm going to put an end to his bullshit." Flashback Mira, Day 6 of Spook School. I had so much fun. Running around everyone. I was shocked because the students grew very far apart and covered an extreme distance, possibly 4 or 5 kilometers. At such a distance, I could not even visualize the last of the group, which contained the slowest students. I was distracted from all the attention by others and had lost contact with my boyfriend. I glanced around and saw Sergeant Reynolds, but no boyfriend, so I ran over by him and queried, "Where's my boyfriend?" He stared at my body and most intelligently answered, "Huh?" I yelled, "Stinky Sergeant Reynolds. Stop being a Richard Cranium and get your cranium out of your posterior orifice. Where's my boyfriend?" He answered, "Oh, sorry Mira, I was just thinking. Ben is all the way at the back of the pack." I did not wait to hear the rest, because if my boyfriend was moving that slowly, his wound must be bothering him, and he required my assistance. I sprinted as fast as I could towards the unseen back of the group. Several people yelled, "Hey, you're going the wrong way." I was very concerned because I knew an incompetent instructor was irritating the slower students with insolent insults. He'd better not insult my boyfriend, or my little foot might insult his posterior orifice. When I finally visualized my missing boyfriend, I was pleasantly surprised. He was with a group of about 10 students and did not appear distressed at all, but just like a hero, was helping the other students who were extremely exhausted and sick. I watched as he encouraged them and helped them. However, I reassessed my initial incorrect evaluation of him when I could visualize his eyes. He was tired and in much pain. I watched with amazement as one student fell and my boyfriend proceeded to pick her up and carry her. Aha! Now I comprehended his weariness and pain. I heard the insolent instructor berate, "Move your lazy butts." I ran up to my boyfriend and announced, "Sorry, my boyfriend, I did not know where you were." He wearily smiled at me and said, "Mira, it's good to see you." And I knew he was telling me the truth. A taunt came from the insolent instructor. "You call yourself a Marine?" I asked, "What may I do to help?" He grinned at me and said, "Nothing, I'm doing fine." I ran around him, noticed blood on his beautiful bodacious buttocks and scolded, "Like Hades you are. You are bleeding again." He grinned and lied. "Really, I didn't notice." The insolent instructor teased, "It must be embarrassing for your girlfriend to see you like this." I did not care for that insult, so I turned, ran backwards, and showed him the inappropriate digit with both hands. The insolent instructor laughed. "Well, sweetie, save those fingers for later, because he's going to be too tired to pleasure you tonight." I ignored the insult and demanded from my boyfriend, "Let me at least carry your pack," and tugged at the straps. Lance Corporal Blaine complained, "Mira, it's too heavy for you." The insolent instructor increased his insults. "Oh, isn't that cute your girlfriend wants to carry your pack?" I asked my boyfriend, "How long has he been saying things like this?" He gave me a very grim look and answered, "Oh, ever since I dropped back here about an hour and a half ago." The girl he was carrying said, "Thank you, I think I can run again now." My boyfriend set her down and she could barely run. I noticed that not only had she disgorged, she had also voided and defecated in her clothes. I questioned, does the insolent instructor not understand he could permanently damage some of the students? My boyfriend replied, he doesn't really care. Shit, this whole school doesn't really care. A very large student, the largest student in the school, dropped to the ground. My boyfriend ran over to him and attempted to carry him. I scolded, "You will injure yourself. He has too much body mass." The insolent instructor threatened, "If you three don't start running, I will run you over with the truck." Then he performed the most unwise action of his soon-to-be very shortened life. Flashback, Jack, Day 6 of Spook School. Without my Mira motivation, I'd slacked off my pace, loafed and dropped toward the back of the pack. I heard a hell of a noise behind me. Someone honked the hell out of the truck horn, yelled like crazy, and then there was a shitload of cheering and clapping. I turned around and the instructor was being chased by his own damn truck. Slap me silly, Mira was driving it. No, it was more like she was driving the hell out of it, and the instructor. He'd try running off the road and Mira would chase him down and yell at him in Russian. Ben ran up, he looked like hell and smelled like shit. I asked, "What the hell happened?" He laughed like a hyena and said, "I was helping the stragglers because the scumsucker instructor was going to kill them." Mira came back, and when the instructor bumped me with the truck to try to get me and Fat Frank to run, she went crazy. Mira yanked him out of the truck, picked up a stick off the ground and beat the shit out of him. He unwisely took off running, and then she started chasing him with his own damn truck. I watched as the instructor slowed up. Mira drove up beside him and started to beat him again with the stick. He changed direction, but Mira spun the wheel, floored the truck, and chased him down again. I laughed. Damn, now she's playing instructor polo. Everyone stood, watched, clapped, and laughed. He'd been a son of a bitch and was now getting bitch slapped by Mira. She finally walloped him a good one. He fell, rolled, and didn't get up. She stopped the truck, ran over and started to kick the hell out of him. Ben said, "Shit, she's going to kill him." We ran over and Ben pulled Mira back off the badly beaten instructor. She yelled, "How do you like that, you Richard Cranium? Boyfriend, release me and let me finish instruction of the instructor." She then continued fighting Ben. He spun her around and she fought like a wildcat until he planted a big one on her lips. Then she melted into his arms. Those two were still hot at each other when Fat Frank ran up, saw the instructor lying on the ground, whipped out his lizard and pissed on him. He yelled, "Psycho scumsucker." That act fired up the rest of the students, and I could tell that mob mentality was going to run amok and ruin the day. The students menacingly approached the instructor, so I stepped between them and I shouted, "All of you need to calm down." One of them shouted back, "Why should we listen to you, you old fart?" I was just getting ready to step out of the way because this SOB wasn't worth dying for when we all jumped like hell from the sound of automatic gunfire. We turned and noticed Ben hugging Mira with one arm and holding an Uzi in the other hand. Mira held another Uzi pointed right at the mob. Ben grinned and said, "If you don't want to listen to Jack, you can listen to me because I was responsible for saving most of your butts." Mira announced, "And should you choose not to listen to my boyfriend, perhaps you will listen to the little girlfriend I am holding." She punctuated her statement by firing into the ground. We all jumped back from the instructor. I said, "I think we should leave this scumsucker here, pile in the truck and head back to the school." The mob cheered at that idea, but Ben interrupted. "First, we need to make sure he's not going to die." I couldn't believe what he asked Mira next. Flashback, Mira, Day 6 of Spook School. "What the Hades?" My boyfriend asked. "Mira, will you please check the instructor to make sure he's not going to die?" I grumpily griped. After his actions, he deserves to be shot. Then I pointed the sweet little Uzi at him. The other students liked that and started to chant, "Shoot him! Shoot him!" My boyfriend snatched the Uzi away from me and calmly said, "Yes, he was a scumsucker, but I think we all agree he got the hell bitch slapped out of him by Mira. Seeing as I am the only one with guns, there's not going to be any shooting." Then he scolded me, "Mira, since you don't want to look at him, back away so I can check him." I felt guilty and recanted, "My boyfriend, while I do not care for your request, I will perform it because you asked me so nicely." I knelt beside him, assessed his injuries and said, "He has multiple broken ribs, many bodily contusions, a serious head contusion probably resulting in a concussion, and I think he voided himself." Fat Frank laughed. "Hell no. He didn't piss himself. I pissed on the scumsucker." The whole student body laughed. I giggled and finished, "Even though I would love to leave him here for the coyotes, because that is what he deserves. We should probably transport him back to the school." My boyfriend looked at the other students and ordered, We all agree that the scumsucker got hurt when he decided to chase after me because I left the road. Then he fell out of the truck. Isn't that true? I complained. My boyfriend, I will not let you take the blame for my actions. The other student shouted, yeah, you can't take the blame for this. I postulated, we should tell the school a partial truth. He was being buttocks of a burro and Kai attacked him. My boyfriend smiled at me but questioned, aren't you worried about Kai getting in trouble? I simply stated, no, because he has already left the country. Flashback, bin. Day 6 of Spook School. Things were pretty tense for a little bit. I gave Mira one of the 3 Uzis I had in my backpack, and that was not a good thing. I mistakenly thought she calmed down and forgot her trigger-happy tendencies. You know, shoot first and shoot later. Then the students had become a lynch mob and were ready to finish what Mira started. I finally got things simmered down, no thanks to Jack. What was his problem lately? Well, no time to figure that out now. Mira did the assessment, but I did notice she was rough as hell on the instructor, so I ordered, let's carefully get him in the back of the truck and head back to the school. Mira smarted off again. I think we should drag him behind the truck. The students chanted, drag him, drag him. I fired a short burst into the ground and said, either we're going to carefully transport him back to the school in the truck, or I'm going to take him in the truck and the rest of you can run back to the school. The students whined, but I knew no one wanted to run more today. Jack walked over beside me and said, Ben's right, we need to take him to the school, and I sure as hell don't want to run anymore today. The rest of the students agreed, so I made one more announcement. When we reach the school, head to your rooms and I will take care of this situation with the commandant. I watched them load the scumsucker instructor, not so carefully, in the back of the truck. As I handed my pack to Jack, I said, hide this quickly when we get back to school. He questioned, the Uzis? I nodded my head, yeah, they aren't legal. I'm sure someone at the school heard the bursts I fired and will be looking for the weapons. Mira grinned at me and excitedly expounded, boyfriend, it would mean more than you know if you gave me the Uzis. They are one of my favorite weapons. They would be the best gift anyone ever gave me. Much better than any old ring. You could even let me leave the truck early and I would sneak back to my room with them. I thought the request was sort of strange, especially since Mira was so excited about the Uzis, but I didn't have the strength to fight her. I replied, Mira, I'd love for you to have and keep the Uzis. Jack handed her the pack and said, don't get caught with them. She grinned and replied, I would shoot anyone if they tried to take them away from me. I shook my head and made a huge mental note in red. Remember Mira is trigger happy. As we took off for the school, I pulled out my mobile phone and placed a call. Mira grinned as she hugged the pack with the Uzis and inquired, whom are you calling? I answered, the cavalry. Flashback, Major M, evening 6 of Spook School. I was shocked when my mobile phone rang and it was Lance Corporal Blaine. Shit, what sort of trouble are they in now? If this bullshit keeps up, I might have to move into that piece of shit school. He gave me an excellent sitrep, even with Ms. Sedankina yelling in the background about wanting to shoot the illegitimate child. It took me a second to figure out she meant the injured instructor, and then I had to fight back laughter. But I knew from her anger there was once again much more to this story than what I was being told. I ordered, thank you, Lance Corporal, drive slowly, and I will meet you at the school. He responded, how about if I drive really slowly and you beat me to the school? I laughed, yeah, I think that's an even better idea. I easily got to the school before the Lance Corporal and had a long talk with the commandant where I reamed him a new a-hole for trying to kill the students. He played dumb, so I called the authorities again. Let that illegitimate child, as Ms. Sedankina would call him, deal with them. I just needed to make sure my Marines were okay. They finally showed up, and I realized they were missing Ms. Sedankina. For some reason, they must have dropped her off early. I looked them over. Sergeant Reynolds looked great while Lance Corporal Blaine looked like hell and smelled, literally, like shit. I asked, so, do we need to take a walk again? Lance Corporal Blaine replied, sir, I am very tired and as you can see and smell, covered with bodily fluids from the other students I helped. I would prefer if I could go and clean up and rest first. It was a valid request, so I said, well, how about you go and clean up and rest and we will talk over dinner? I noticed a frustrated look on the L.CPL's face and he answered, sir, that would be fine, but you should know it's not safe to eat the food here. Sergeant Reynolds and Mira eat MREs and I wait until later to eat. I wanted to ask him why, but knew he was too tired now, so I replied, we will discuss this later. Go get cleaned up. Flashback, Mira, evening 6 of Spook School. I was in heaven. What a wonderful day. I carefully hid the wonderful Uzis my fiancé gave me. He did not realize it, but I considered these to be my engagement ring from him. Because diamonds might be forever, but Uzis are a girl's best friend. Besides, engagement rings just get in the way when you're fighting. Who needs a piece of petrified carbon? It's not like you can shoot anyone with it. But the ring of a firing fully auto Uzi is the best engagement ring ever, and my fantastic fiancé gave me 3. He loves me extremely. I took very much too much time looking at them and kissing them and posing with them in front of my mirror, and almost did not make it to stinky Sergeant Reynolds' room, because I had a duty to perform. I grabbed my field surgery kit and ran to Sergeant Reynolds' room because my fiancé's fantastic fanny needed to be cleaned and redressed. Then I must hurry back to my room, clean up and change into my costume for tonight. I did notice a peculiar box in Sergeant Reynolds' room addressed to my fiancé. I considered opening it, but remembered the flower box from earlier and decided it was better to let lying dogs sleep. I heard the door and they both walked into the room. I pushed stinky Sergeant Reynolds out of the way and gave my fiancé a fantastic kiss. This time he didn't even fight me. I pulled away and commanded, "You shower first, then I need to redress your wound." He didn't even complain when I assisted him in undressing, but he wouldn't let me remove his underwear. I think he was embarrassed because of Sergeant Reynolds, walked him into the bathroom and prepared the shower. I kissed him on the cheek and asked, "Please do not take very long because I still need to clean up and get into my new costume." I walked back into the bedroom and Sergeant Reynolds smiled at me. I queried, "Why do you smile so?" He replied, "Ben must be very tired for him to let you treat him that way." I did not understand, so I asked, "Why would I not treat my fiancé this way?" I noticed a shocked look on his face when he responded, "You two are engaged?" I smiled and twirled and answered, "Yes, we are. And it's wonderful." He asked, "Where's your ring?" I simply reminded him, "Sergeant Reynolds, do you not remember when I asked my fiancé to give me the Uzis and told him they would mean more than any old engagement ring?" Then he said, "Mira, I'd love for you to have and keep the Uzis. Besides, they are much more practical than a worthless ring." Sergeant Reynolds gave me an extremely strange look and said, "I can't wait until this is announced to all the students tonight. But let me be the first to congratulate the soon-to-be Mrs. Blaine," which made me extremely happy. My fantastic fiancé came out of the shower. Sergeant Reynolds quickly ran into the bathroom and I commanded, "Please lie down so I can redress your wound." He didn't even fight with me. He fell onto the bottom bunk, and my poor tired fiancé fell fast asleep. I carefully cleaned his wound, and of course it had acquired more foreign objects. Then I lovingly lathered it with antibiotic cream and covered it, this time with a practical camouflage dressing. I gave him a minuscule injection of amphetamines and vitamins, and couldn't resist kissing his beautiful buttocks on both sides. I covered him with the blanket, left the room, locked the door, and ran to my new room. Flashback, Jack, Night 6 of Spook School. Holy shit. This is the funniest thing that had ever happened to Ben, and I can't wait to see how the hell he was going to get out of this one without Mira killing him. I almost laughed my butt off when Mira told me she felt the Uzis were an engagement ring, and I certainly caught the mistake she made. She just said, "Much better than any old ring, not much better than any old engagement ring." But I knew better than to laugh about their engagement because Mira would have killed me. So I ran into the bathroom before I said anything stupid, since it would be better to let Ben broach this subject with Mira. I was still looking forward to Myra's new costume tonight, but I was even more looking forward to the big announcement, especially in front of the major. I bet he gets majorly pissed and says something even more majorly stupid. And if I sit back and keep my mouth shut, Mira might actually get pissed and kick Ben's and the major's butt. But it's going to be hard as hell not to laugh about this one. I came out of the shower, Mira was gone, and Ben was crashed on the bottom bunk. I noticed a big box again addressed to him, but I wasn't opening any boxes after the flower box in Myra's room. I still can't believe no one figured out I was the one who opened the box. I got dressed in my dress blues. Ben was still sleeping, so I kicked the bunk and yelled, "Wake up or you're going to miss dinner." He jumped and said, "What the hell? Where am I?" I wanted to say, "On the way to your own funeral," but instead answered, "You crashed in my room. But you need to get dressed for dinner. By the way, you have another package." He seemed a bit wired when he said, "Thanks, Jack. I wonder what's in it." He grabbed it and ran off into the bathroom. These mystery packages of Ben's are sure strange. 10 minutes later, the awaited knock on the door came. I quickly rushed to the door, threw it open, but it was Major M. He asked, "Are we ready for dinner?" I replied, "I'm ready, sir, but we're still waiting on Mira and Lance Corporal Blaine." We stood in the doorway. He demanded, "Sergeant, don't make me stand in the hallway." Shit, I didn't want him in my room. He might pull inspection. I reluctantly stepped aside, and he walked into the room. He saw my footlockers and asked, "Is this all your and the L.CPL's gear?" I replied, "No, sir, this is just my gear. Lance Corporal Blaine doesn't sleep here anymore." He opened his mouth. I was sure to ask where the hell he did sleep, when a second knock came on the door. I said, Excuse me, sir, that's most likely Mira. I opened the door. My jaw must have hit the floor and my mouth must have watered. Flashback. Major M, Night 6 of Spook School. I was just getting ready to ask the sergeant where the hell my lance corporal was staying when Miss Sedankina walked into the room. One look at her in the knee-high red boots, the skimpy as hell blue shorts with white stars on them, the red strapless top with the golden bird-looking emblem made me forget all about what I was going to ask. Miss Sedankina twirled and teased. How do you like my costume for tonight? The sergeant being the lech that he was couldn't say anything, so I said, Miss Sedankina, you make a more beautiful Wonder Woman than Linda Carter herself. Sergeant Reynolds finally said, Mira, someone would have to be pretty fast to beat that costume. I was shocked as hell when the Lance Corporal walked out of the bathroom in his costume and said, Flashback, Ben, Night 6 of Spook School. I wasn't sure about the costume Charlie sent me for tonight. It was pretty revealing, and with the Major being here, I wasn't sure how he'd react. But I sure as hell didn't have anything else to wear tonight. My BDUs were screwed and Jack wouldn't loan me any, so I was forced to wear what was in the box. I listened at the door and figured out Mira was Wonder Woman. Then Jack said, Mira, someone would have to be pretty fast to beat that costume. I couldn't have had a better cue if I had planned it. I walked out of the bathroom and announced, well, no one is faster than the Flash. The funny thing is that I felt really fast tonight, sort of like everything around me was moving in slow motion. Flashback, Mira, Night 6 of Spook School. I spun, visualized my fiancé, and this time I was not disconcerted. I was aroused because he looked stunningly sexy in his skin-tight red suit with the lightning bolt belt and symbol in the middle of his huge chest, the golden winged boots and the sexy mask with winged ears that hid a portion of his face. I giggled and said, I hope this does not mean you finish faster than I do. And he crimsoned, almost as dark as his suit. Malodorous Major M of course complained, aren't you out of uniform? So I promptly reminded him, Mike, please remind me. Is my Lance Corporal on a formal mission here? If not, then he has no uniform requirement. Then I scratched the side of my face with the inappropriate digit just to let him know my extreme displeasure. After that, I grinned at him. Flashback, Major M, Night 6 of Spook School. What the hell? Did Miss Sedankina just flip me off? Hell yes, she did, and then grinned at me. It's a good thing she's not a Marine, or I'd have her cleaning latrines. No, I'd take a page from the old man and ship her butt off to freeze in Thule. She announced, I'm hungry. Shall we go to dinner? I felt like a freak walking with these two. I looked over at the sergeant as he grinned and shrugged his shoulders, so I guess this had become the norm. We walked into the mess hall, and the whole hall other than the commandant and instructors stood and started to clap. All of this just for the costumes they were wearing? Things just didn't seem right. We sat at the table and Sergeant Reynolds tossed me an MRE. I saw it was the dreaded Country Captain Chicken and immediately complained, Sergeant, are you trying to poison me? He grinned and replied, Sir, no sir. Those are the only MREs the Lance Corporal left me. I was just getting ready to blast the Lance Corporal when he smiled and said, Sir, Sergeant and Mira, you won't need your MREs tonight because I have arranged a special treat for us. Please excuse me. He walked towards the door and I wondered why Miss Sedankina became so agitated. Flashback, Mira, Night 6 of Spook School. My fantastic fiancé had somehow planned a special engagement dinner for us. He is such a thoughtful fiancé. I must remember to thoroughly thank him later when we sleep in our bed, and I know the perfect lingerie for the occasion, none. There just might be one little problem that I hope does not happen. I watched him walk to the doorway, and Tom gave him many bags to bring to our table, but not before he teased my fiancé slightly about his costume. However, I would not let Tom's boyish attitude ruin such a wonderful night. My fiancé came back to the table, smiled at all of us, opened the first bag and announced, course number 1. He placed little bowls in front of us with funny big spoons. I took the lid off the bowl, and it smelled wonderful. I took a little taste and found it was spicy, a little sour tasting, and reminded me of Thai food. I remarked, this is wonderful, what is it called? Sergeant Reynolds interrupted and replied, Mira, it's called hot and sour soup. It was so tasty I gobbled it right down since I was very hungry because they did not let us have lunch today. I looked up and my fiancé was smiling at me as he nervously tapped the table. He then politely asked, did you enjoy that, Mira? I beamed at him. Yes, honey, it was extraordinary. I was slightly embarrassed because I'd finished before everyone else, so I instructed myself to slow down for the next course. My fiancé gave us all chopsticks, which excited me, so I asked, did you remember how much I like spicy Thai food? He replied, yes, Mira, I did remember you like spicy Thai food. But there are no Thai restaurants close to the school, so we are having Chinese food. I watched my boyfriend closely as he seemed nervous tonight. I was not certain if it was our big announcement, or the amphetamines I administered to him. Next, my fiancée set beautiful appetizer plates on the table. I greedily looked at it and asked, "Those look like crab rangoon and spring rolls, two of my favorite Thai appetizers." Major M replied, "Ms. Sadankana, you will find some of the dishes are similar." I remembered my manners this time, so ate slowly and watched as Sergeant Reynolds and Major M ate like heathens. Sergeant Reynolds even used a fork instead of chopsticks. Sacrilege. Several times I thought I caught my fiancé smiling at me, and he was certainly bouncing his leg. I rubbed my leg against his. He smiled at me but stopped bouncing. This time, everyone waited for me to finish. When I was done, I smiled at them and said, "That was a wonderful dinner." My fiancé corrected me. "Oh no, Mira, we still have 2 more courses." I thought, 2 more courses? This is truly a feast for our engagement dinner. He pulled out a bottle of sake and poured each of us a little cupful. Sergeant Reynolds slurped his down and said, "Hey, how about some more?" My fiancé handed Sergeant Reynolds the whole bottle and said, "Split that with the major," and pulled out another bottle just for us. I giggled and teased, "Are you trying to get me drunk tonight?" My honey looked shocked and replied, "Oh no, Mira, I would never do that." So I pouted just a little. Lance Corporal Blaine placed 2 little containers in front of me and said, "Mira, one is called cellophane noodles and the other is called ants climbing trees." I gave him a very funny look. Was he serving noodles made of tape and ants? He laughed and explained, "Mira, the noodles are very thin like cellophane tape, and the other dish doesn't have ants in it. It's really marinated pork cooked in a spicy sauce. Put the noodles on your plate and put the ants on top of it." I felt much better and did as he instructed. I found it was delightful. He gave Sergeant Reynolds an appropriate dish named Beggar's Chicken, and malodorous Major M an even more appropriate dish called Bang Bang G. I thought I would like to go bang-bang at Major M with my rifle for insulting my fiancé's costume. I asked, "Sweetie, might I try your dish?" He laughed and said, "Mira, this is Kung Pao chicken, and I had them make it extra hot. Are you sure?" I giggled and answered, "Yes, it will not be too spicy for me." I took a little bite of his food from his chopsticks and remarked, "That was quite tasty." Sergeant Reynolds taunted, "Mira, you should try one of those little red peppers Ben is pushing to the side of his plate. They are really spicy." My honey tried to tell me to avoid those, but I did not listen and put 3 in my mouth. I thought my tongue was on fire, but I did not let stinky Sergeant Reynolds know it bothered me. I simply stated, "That was not very spicy at all, perhaps you should try some too?" Sergeant Reynolds laughed and replied, "Oh, no thank you. My food is fine." I waited until he was not looking and drank a full cup of sake. I was pleased it made the burn lessen. My fiancé quickly filled my little cup and I smiled at him. Finally, my fantastic fiancé gave all of us green tea ice cream for dessert with fortune cookies. It had melted, but I still loved it and remarked, ice cream." My darling gave me his portion to finish. I opened my fortune cookie and the little note read, "Tonight you will have a big surprise." I looked around the table, smiled, and said, "Thank you, my Lance Corporal fiancé, but if I eat like this every night, I won't be able to fit into my wedding dress." Flashback, Jack, Night 6 of Spook School. I guess I'd had too much sake. When Mira called Lance Corporal fiancé, I exploded in laughter. Ben looked stunned and asked, "Mira, when did we get engaged?" The major yelled, "What the hell is going on?" Mira began to cry and sobbed, but, but you gave me the guns as my engagement ring. Do you not remember?" I said, "They would mean more than any old engagement ring." Then you said, "Mira, I'd love for you to have and keep the Uzis." Ben looked at me and said, "Jack, help me out here. I do remember the ring part, but I don't remember the engagement ring part." Mira looked at me, suddenly realized the no engagement version was true, jumped up from the table, and ran off. I had a sinking feeling this wasn't good. I yelled at Ben, "You'd better go catch her." Ben took off after her and yelled back, "Jack, I think you had something to do with this terrible trick, and after I clear things up with Mira, I'm going to beat you within an inch of your life." The major looked at me and said, "Sergeant Reynolds, how do you like cold places like Thule, Greenland?" I swallowed hard and said, "Sir, I don't think I'd like it there at all." He glared at me and said, "Then you'd better move your butt and help your sniper find Ms. Sadankana. You may not know it, but she and the relationship she has with Lance Corporal Blaine are very important to me. So help me God, if you've screwed that up with your foolishness, you'll be digging outdoor latrines in Thule with a spoon in the middle of winter." I jumped up and hoped to God I could find both of them because I was sure the major wasn't kidding. Flashback, Major M, Night 6 of Spook School. My plans definitely included the Lance Corporal. I needed him, but not necessarily Sergeant Reynolds. However, I would like to have the sergeant on board because there was an indefinable synergy when those two worked together. They had successfully pulled off missions that no two men should even survive. I had looked at the missions until my eyes hurt, studied how the Lance Corporal and Sergeant interacted, but it was still a mystery to me. I knew what the negatives for Sergeant Reynolds were, but what positives did Sergeant Reynolds bring to the equation? He'd better hope I never figured that out, because if I did, he was gone. Flashback, Mira, Night 6 of Spook School. I was humiliated beyond all belief. I had wrongly assumed Lance Corporal Blaine had given the guns as an engagement ring and realized from the look on stinky Sergeant Reynolds' face my massive mistake. There was only one solution for this egregious, embarrassing error: seppuku. So I angrily ran towards my new room. Flashback, Ben, Night 6 of Spook School. I wasn't sure what was going on with me tonight, but I was faster than greased lightning. Perhaps it had something to do with the Flash costume I wore. Mira even had a head start on me, but I caught up and followed her. I wanted to see what she was doing, have a talk with her and explain things. Then I was going to find Jack and kick his butt so hard his mama was going to cry. Mira headed to her room, opened the door, and I flew in behind her before she could close the door. She yelled at me, "Lance Corporal Blaine, extricate your corporeal self from my abode." After my humiliation, my honor demands I perform seppuku. I shook my head and said, "Mira, there's no way in hell you're committing harikari. We need to talk." She grabbed her practice katana and threatened, "Leave or I will beat you until you have no sense left." I grabbed her real katana and said, "Mira, if you are determined to kill yourself, please kill me first. Because I cannot live believing I'm the reason one of the most beautiful, sexy, and exciting women in the world killed herself." I drew the sword, knelt in front of her, lowered my head, presented the katana to her with both hands, and waited. Flashback, Mira, Night 6 of Spook School. Did Lance Corporal Blaine just tell me he could not live without me? He certainly was in a very submissive position, the knowledge of which he acquired somewhere. I had hope as I grabbed my katana out of his hands, brandished it overhead, and ordered, "Lance Corporal Blaine, leave my room or die." He remarkably replied, "Mira, I cannot live with myself if you kill yourself, so I am not leaving this room until we talk." I menacingly sliced the air several times with my katana, and Lance Corporal Blaine did not even flinch. I replied, "The time for discourse is over. Leave my room so I might end my humiliation." He stated, "Mira, the only way I am leaving this room without talking is in a body bag. Now stop being a drama queen. Sit down on the floor with me and let's talk about this." He looked up at me and the anger slightly subsided in my heart, so I responded, "Lance Corporal Blaine, I will sit and talk, however, I do not celebrate that it will make any change." I knelt on the floor facing the Lance Corporal and placed my katana across my lap. He looked at me, and I was now happy I did not commit seppuku or remove his head. He smiled at me and said, Flashback, Ben, Night 6 of Spook School. I looked at Mira and said, "Look, Mira, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the meaning of giving you the Uzis. That was my mistake." Mira answered, "No, Lance Corporal Blaine, it was my fault." I hoped I said more than I said and realized now that I did not specify engagement with ring. This was getting me nowhere, so I changed tactics. "Mira, if I married you, what do you think your life would be like?" She quickly responded, "It would be wonderful and heavenly." I smiled at her and explained, "Mira, you are a very logical woman and have only thought about this with your heart and not with your head. Let me tell you what your life would be like. First, whomever you work for would be very upset at you. Next, you would sit in a house alone and lonely, all by yourself while I was ordered on missions. I would come back and we would share a few weeks and then I would leave again. You are way too much an exciting and special woman to be forced into that sort of terrible life." She instantly said, "I would make many new friends so I would not be lonely." I smiled and laughed. "Mira, you do not understand American women. Most of them do not accept foreign women into their circles of friends. If you think Jack has been mean to you, it's mild compared to what they would do to you." She spouted, "Then I would kill the succus." I shook my head, "And then you would go to prison because they don't allow that sort of behavior in America. In fact, you couldn't even beat them, or they would lock you up." I watched her think, and then she said, Flashback, Mira, Night 6 of Spook School. Lance Corporal Blaine was making extreme sense to me. I had not analyzed what my life would be like. I think I wrongly assumed I would be allowed to travel and go on missions with him. And he was right. The beast would be very upset and probably kill me, my sister, and the Lance Corporal. There was one thing that greatly bothered me. So I asked, "Lance Corporal Blaine, what you have said makes sense, but why do you refuse to train me?" He looked me in the eyes and replied, "Mira, Jack had a wonderful girlfriend for many years named Anna. I lived with them and watched what sort of life they had together, with Jack and me being gone all the time. I promised myself I would never force a woman into that sort of relationship with me. It's not the sort of life for a wife. However, Anna had women over all the time for dinner, trying to find me a girlfriend. Most of those women I trained even though I had no feelings for them, and then I would always leave before they woke up in the morning. Right before Jack and Anna broke up, she told me how I had made those women feel like 304s, and I promised myself I would never do that to another woman, especially one I cared for. I smiled at him. So you haven't trained me because you care for me? He nodded his head. Now don't get your hopes up, but yes, Mira, I care for you, and that is why I won't train you. I did not totally understand this concept. I had been taught men always train women whether they cared for them or not. But after my disappointment tonight, I felt like I deserved something. So I boldly asked, Lance Corporal Blaine, the only way which I can save face and not have to commit seppuku is if you abide with me in my room. He shook his head and said, Mira, if I live in the same room as you, I'm not sure I can keep from training you. That made me very happy since he did have feelings for me, and I knew the solution to his problem. I crimsoned as I replied, Lance Corporal Blaine, that would not happen right now because I lowered my head and crimsoned more. My interior orifice is under repair. So for the last week we would be at this school. You would be safe. Please stay in my room, so I do not have to commit seppuku. Flashback, Ben, Night 6 of Spook School. I could tell how embarrassed Mira was when she told me she was on her period, but it did solve the problem of me staying in her room. Oh, I knew there was still a chance we could train each other, but she seemed adverse to that action during her period, and I was even more adverse. I stated, Mira, I will stay in your room with you as long as you don't try to train me. But if that happens, I will leave again. She smiled at me and said, Thank you, boyfriend. I need to alleviate the blood honor of my katana and then go to sleep. I am very tired. I chose to ignore the boyfriend comment, at least that was better than the fiancé comment earlier, and replied, and I need to find out where Tom and Howard moved my camp, so I will see you in the morning. She frowned and demanded, No, my boyfriend, you must stay with me tonight. I consented. Okay, Mira, I don't know what I will sleep in, but I will stay here tonight. Leave your katana and I will take care of it. She grinned and said, Silly boyfriend, there are advantages to being under repair. My mouth fell open as she walked into the bathroom with her katana. I pulled down the top and bottom bunks and figured I'd have to sleep in this damn Flash outfit. I did pull it down to my waist so my chest could breathe. She walked out in flannel pajamas and I asked, Which bunk do you want, top or bottom? She smiled and answered, First, I think we need some more sake to celebrate our new friendship. I started to complain and Mira stated, Boyfriend, it will be a big insult if we do not have a toast to our new friendship. The little toast ended up being the whole damn bottle. Man, could she drink. With the bottle being drained, I asked again, Which bunk do you want, top or bottom? She grinned at me and asked, Boyfriend, I really need for you to hold me tonight. Would you please sleep in the same bunk as me and hold me? How the hell can you say no when a beautiful woman wants to be held? I sure couldn't figure any alternative, at least not in my current condition. After we crawled into the bottom bunk together, she turned away from me, snuggled up against me and said, Now we will sleep like 2 spoons in a pea pod. I didn't correct her this time because it wasn't important. We were almost asleep when... Flashback, Jack, Night 6 of Spook School. I searched all over hell and back again trying to find Ben and Mira. Finally, I headed to my room but decided to see if Mira was in her room on the way. I banged on her door and shouted, Mira, are you there? What the hell? Ben responded and said, Jack, get the hell out of here and leave us alone. Just know this isn't over, and I'm going to talk to you in the morning. I felt better knowing those two were together and my trip to Thule would be canceled, but didn't like the sound of Ben's threat. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.